See those levels?
I feel like we should.
That's
we
your
should've
laugh.
just left it
Alright,
how
before
it
we
was.
start anything right now, I'm gonna just say this. So I got feedback from someone who watched already, like all of them. And then the main things were the first one we did when we did the album interviews. He said that audio quality, you could tell the difference because we were in the studio. Obviously, we haven't done the studio setup yet, so we're gonna make the regular setup is gonna have that in there at some point in time, like the soundproof in the. That's part of the not like the studio now, but. And then the other thing he said was when you bring, like, we should bring ideas and then maybe like a backup idea. That way the conversation doesn't dull anywhere. I didn't really see too much where it dulled. I think he might have been watching the album interviews when he got that. So I didn't really take that too much. And then the third thing was like mic etiquette. And we're all guilty of it. So what we should do is, like, right now I'm talking, so I'm up. If I'm not talking, I sit back away from the mic. Because you don't need the mic that close because all these mics are picking up all of our voices. So you will still be, like, Bree was never near Mike the whole time, but you can hear Bree the whole time. So when you're not talking, you can be back here. That way if you laugh, your laugh is still in there, but you don't bust out the microphone for people who are listening. And I don't have to go in there and try to, like, every time someone laughs, try to figure out how to
like making you work.
change the volume. But this is the thing. If you keep making me work, you're not going to be on it. Because this is the thing. I don't have all this endless time. Like, I stayed up Monday night. I stayed up from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. editing the third one. That was only an hour long. So if we did a 3-hour one like that, how much time is it going to take me? I don't got endless time. So it's like I'm trying to make this as streamlined as possible, which brings me to my last thing of just respect of the microphone. We're all here right now. We're alive. And we're trying to make this thing when people come, they're coming to, when the first time they ever see you, what their first impression of you, it could be 10 seconds. And what is that 10 seconds? At all times. And these things, because when people finally start listening and really watching, it's going to be big, and then we're going to have guests, and it's going to be like everyone's going to want to hear all of everyone's opinions based on who we are. So I just think, one, streamlining it so it's as easy as possible for me just makes everything go better. And on the other hand, just like last time you wanted to bring it into what your question's going to be, right?
Right.
You wanted to do that, but also I liked last time because it showed people how we are as a group when we're all hanging out, cracking jokes. Wow.
It was very inappropriate though.
So yeah, in that sense. So in that way, I was like, I like that. So, but future, what do we want this to be? And I think we want this to be like a place where we can speak our feelings and ideas, and have people come, and then have people on the flies on the wall, and also think, oh, what would I do, or what do I feel about that? And then hopefully it connects with people and resonates. So I think that when we're doing anything, like when we're joking around and we're all with each other, like, we're going to be who we are. But when we're on the microphone, we have to really think about what we're saying, what we're doing, what we're feeling, and just have respect for the fact that we get to be the person on the microphone and not watching it in this moment. So that's where I wanted to start this one off.
And the only thing I even have to say back to that, like, is I did offer to help. And
You
it
did.
couldn't work out.
But yeah, it didn't. And then
it couldn't work out.
But then Monday morning at 1 a.m. is when it came down to it, and I did it.
And then that offer still extended because I was wondering why I feel like I'm shaking.
I did that so it just wasn't on your leg.
Sure. I don't mind that as much as, like, just casually seeing shaking in my peripheral.
And it's not to be like, in the sense of dictator on the mic. It's
no.
In the sense of this thing that we have is like a glorious opportunity, and we're all gonna slip up here and there, say something, and inevitably it's gonna be some editing. Like, we're not perfect. Like, it's not gonna be like da 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 like scripted, right? So naturally, but I want a natural slip up to be cool because we had an idea for all the slip ups and stuff in time, like make a big thing of that. So it's like, you know what I mean? But I don't want it to be like ignorant slip ups. It's just slip ups that, like, in this day and age, it might not be the good climate to put it out. You know what I'm saying?
Also, it also prepares you for, like, if we did other podcasts or, like, even radio where we get interviews and shit. You gotta be, like, even me saying and shit is, like, not a necessary word you need to say on the air. Even if it's just common tongue. It's, like, the way that the world perceives it. It's, like, you can't say bad words, right? Which is weird because you're just making sounds out of your mouth. But, like, radios don't allow that. TV doesn't allow that. So in those positions, if we get on, like, Jimmy Kimmel and something, we get to perform one day, then we got to make sure that our, like, etiquette is correct so that we don't get, like, banned. Because, like, with all due respect, when 21 Pilots, you know who they are?
Yeah, of course.
When they won their Grammy, they pulled their pants down as like a thing because they said that when they were like kids, they said if they ever won a Grammy, they'd pull their pants down and go up in their boxers. You'd never seen them anywhere again. Never seen them at the Grammys again. Never seen them on the radio again. Never see them promoted again because they
well,
did.
I hear them on the radio still.
Oh, you hear them on the radio?
Yeah.
I guess that's the only place. I've never
Yeah.
seen them again after that. And which is one of those things that this industry is so like chokeholded by like certain people who control the whole thing. And if you get on their bad side, then like, or if you disrespect them in some way, that doesn't mean like bend over. But at the same time, it's like, only take the necessary damage. You know what I mean? If it's not necessary, don't take the
You're
damage.
gonna tell me it doesn't mean bend over after we start recording? You're not gonna. So beforehand, that meant nothing to you?
What was before?
All right, touche.
This guy over
All
here.
right, so
I honestly, I don't know if you're serious or not because I don't know.
No, I was.
Yeah.
It was more so for the sake of the joke about.
Heard.
Yeah, but where are we starting? Whose topic starts?
I think Eddie's topic should
I
start
think, yeah,
because Eddie tried to bring it up last time.
Yeah.
I don't remember what my topic.
I
last
remember
time
because
was.
your topic was pretty much like mine, which
So-
yours was essentially.
Oh yeah, I remember what it was now. It was like what? How do we identify ourselves as Ocean
Well, yours
on Arrival?
was, yeah. What do you think the group's like
Purpose.
purpose is?
Yeah.
And whatever. So Jason can start with.
Like group or individual?
Well, how do you want everyone to respond to this? And then
Okay,
you
well
can
my
bring it
question
to-
was that of like what does everyone originally I said define like everyone should define their own position, but then also Ryan kind of like was like, well, it shouldn't be so defined like cuz you have to like come up with like what you are, what you're doing now, but more so just like what are the things that you want to do, which I would have loved to have Bree and Keita here as well for that, but that's okay. But more so just like from my perspective of like what does everybody want out of it? And I'll give mine first just to give like an opening because like I look at like in terms of Oceans on Arrival, like the reason why like when I first started making music, I always wanted to be a group. I never wanted to be a solo artist. I never saw the allure of being like the one dude who's like super famous with a shit ton of money and just by themselves in that role and their only friends are other industry people, not people that they grew up with or came up with. I just never saw that as like an alluring thing. Like that's gotta be lonely as hell. Like why would you want that?
Facts.
So I always wanted to have a group, and I've met like literally over 100 different artists in so many different reigns that I've like encountered, but like every single one of them except for you guys have essentially just fallen through the cracks because either they just didn't keep up, they didn't do the work, they didn't want to, they didn't have the vision. Most of them just lack vision. Most of them don't understand that if you work together, you get farther. And most people are selfish and they have their own like individual, like, oh, I'm gonna do my thing and that's that. Because we live in America, and America is so like individualistic, which is good because it's good to be individuals, but it's also like we got to remember if you're playing football or whatever, like, yeah, you're the quarterback, but you can't do shit without a good wide receiver or tight end or running back. So the way I look at it is like the lineman. Yeah. Don't forget the lineman. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the way I look at it is like Oceans on Arrival. I like the pirate ship analogy because I just love pirates and I like boats. So I imagine it just as like a boat. And each one of us are our own person. We all have a role on the boat. And every stop we get to when we go to port, everyone's going to do something different when we get off the boat. Like we might do the same things. We might go to the same places. We might go to different places. But when it's time to leave, we all get back on the boat and we all travel together because we know that we can get farther manning a larger vessel than you can get manning a rowboat through the ocean. You know, because you don't have to cover every ground. You don't have to paddle. You don't have to look. You don't have to steer all at the same time. One person could be paddling, one's steering, one's looking to chart the course, so on and so forth. And then we rotate depending on what we need to be doing. So the way I look at it is like in terms of the group, even with like Bree and Keita not really making music as much, but more so on other artistic sides, especially with Bree doing all like the photography and the editing and stuff like that. Is like I'll use her as an example because it's easier. Is like for her like us as like the subject and like either doing cover arts or like the merchandise or her designs. Like the idea that I have, which I won't say because it'll come out, but idea that I have that I've sent in there is something that like when she designs those things and we create that and we sell that, when we show like this is how much profit we made off of it, she could take that to a company and be like, oh, I'm working with these people. This is my design. We made this much profit off this shirt in this amount of time. And that's something that she can use to market herself. So by us working together, it benefits all of us because now we take that money and we apply it to whatever we're applying it to, but also puts our merch out. It also benefits her because now she has a larger platform where she didn't have to do the whole thing herself. She didn't have to come up with that idea of just some random thing. And it's like some random thing where you're just trying to create it from scratch. Like with my card game, where I'm just like creating it from scratch. There's no ties to it. There's no secondary way to promote the thing. But when you work together, like in that frame, we're the subject and she's the artist painting the subject. She can take that and market herself to other companies or other businesses and be like, look, this is the success I've reached over here. If you want to be a part of what I'm doing, these are the terms, these are the conditions, da-da-da-da. Furthers her opportunities. Also, all while the way benefits us too, because now we have these cool designs or whatever. You know what I mean? Same thing for music. Like, obviously, I have so much music that I put out. And each one of us here can, like, write music, record music, sing, rap, produce. Eddie's done the least amount of production, but you've still made a beat.
Thanks.
You made the Away Away beat. So, and whatever else that I don't know you've made. But point being is all of us can work together to create whatever we can create. And this is one thing I learned a while back working with Ryan. Because when I first started making music, I was just by myself, really. So it was like everything, the way I did it is the way it was done. And this is past the point of me meeting like hundreds of people. No, not hundreds, but at least 100 people, because like one day I counted. And like by the end of it, I was still in the studio by myself. I was like, damn, how many artists have I met? And no, I'm not creating with anybody, you know? And, but I realized like when we record a song together, and even if it's just like hook, verse, hook, verse, hook, just this is like the simplest layout you could possibly do in a song. If I write the hook and then I write a verse and then Ryan's not on the song, I used to write a verse and a verse. I'd have 3 verses, like 4 hooks or whatever, but the hooks are all the same. And it's a lot of work that you're doing, which is not bad because you can get, you know, intricate, whatever. But working with Ryan is like, oh, I'm going to go in there. I write the hook or he writes the hook. In the beginning, I was writing the hooks for the most part. But then we started writing them together. But I'm only going to write one verse. And then Ryan writes one verse. And then instead of me sitting there and be like, I wrote this dope, like when I did All My Dreams, I wrote the first verse. I almost didn't write a second verse. Because I was like, oh, that shit is so hard. Like, I don't know if I'm going to write a second verse. The second verse is like way harder than the first verse, in my opinion. But instead of it being that case where it's like, I wrote this first verse and the second one's really hard, when you work with other people, you throw the first one out. And you take the second verse, which is the really hard one, and the other person writes essentially what is their second verse, which is the really hard one. You put those two things together, and you get a best of both worlds situation, where now you have a song that you have 2 different perspectives, and it's not just me trapped in my own perspective. Because when you have other people's perspective in music, it forces you, instead of being like, this is an album where 100% of it was me, where it's all me, I'm in my own world, it forces you to take yourself out of yourself for a second and see somebody else's like perspective, which changes the vibe of everything, but it helps you grow and learn through your own music as well. And then also just bouncing ideas, you know what I mean? Just stuff that like you see, oh, that's cool. And you can bring, like, everybody has a different like style or energy that they can bring to the table that makes like the whole thing unique that I couldn't do by myself. Like, even if you're like amazing wide receiver, you still can't run the ball the way a running back would run the ball. You know what I mean? You might not be as strong. You might be faster, but you might not be as strong. You might not be as agile. You might be. But there's going to be things that you have that the people next to you don't. And there's going to be things that the people next to you have that you don't. And I think the goal is for each and every single one of us is like, you recognize the greatness in each other and you recognize the flaws in each other. And the greatness we promote. We push each other, help each other be better. The flaws, we fill the gaps. Somewhere that I realize you have a flaw is my job to fill the gap. It's not, I don't even, like, sometimes it's to help each other realize those things, but sometimes just to be like, oh, that one went over your head, I'll catch it. Or if it goes over my head, you catch it. And we just hold each other up, essentially. You know what I mean? Instead of the society figures out each other's flaws and puts each other down. Takes advantage of each other rather than, oh shit, this is the part where you slipped, I got you right here. I slipped, you get me right here. And so on and so forth, where it's like, if we're walking on a balance beam, you know what I mean? But instead of one balance beam where you're all by yourself, it's 4 balance beams. And you can still be every single one of us at our own pace in our own place. But then when you recognize something, be like, yo, there's water 2 steps ahead of you that you might not have seen because you were focusing on your balance. So the way I look at like Oceans on Arrival is like, it's like what you were talking, like this is a long time ago. You were outside one of the restaurants you worked at. And you were telling me about like I'm not going to say the name because I don't know how much you want to say. But the idea you had of like the multimedia kind of thing. It's like that where it's like, by the end of it, I envision like this is like a company, not just a band, not just a group, but like a whole company. And everyone has their wing of what they do. Like for me, I know it's going to be like games and shit because I love games. I love video games. I love card games. Like I'm going to have my own shit. I'm going to have my own chessboards. I'm going to have my own decks of cards, have my own dice sets, everything because I love video games and I love games. Ryan likes movies and stuff. and like shows and cartoons and stuff like that. So that's something that I'm sure Ryan's going to be involved in. And then you'll have whatever you like, and everyone will have this thing that like we all essentially benefit off each other, because the bigger the company is, the more successful everybody can be. And like if you look at people, like I'm like a student of the game, I say it all the time. If you look at like someone like, or a group like ASAP Mob, like this is a group that like all of them, they all propelled like into their positions of power because they all had each other, and one person's success affected every single one of them, and they were able to get the opportunities that they're able to get because they work together. You know what I mean? And they won. If you look at them, they're still relevant today. They came in the game like over 10 years ago. You know what I mean? It's not a lot of people who can say that. Even like Kendrick Lamar. Like everyone says Kendrick Lamar, but Kendrick Lamar is not Kendrick Lamar without TDE, Absol, J-Rock, Schoolboy Q. Those guys came up together. You know what I mean? And they are all still relevant in their own rights. I mean, we just went to the Absol concert. We didn't go to another person's concert that we knew 10 years ago. We went to Absol's concert, right?
X.
Now, he's not the biggest one out of all them, but still, it just shows you that that's success. He's still successful 10 years later, plus. So the way I look at it is like we are all our own people, and we're all going to be responsible for our own success. But if we're pirates and we pull up on shore and we're going to go raid the village, when there's 4 of us going to raid the village, it's a lot easier than one person trying to kick down every door. You know what I mean? So as an individual, like it's all of our jobs individually to like get done what you want to get done. I tell this to Ryan all the time. You get out what you put in. Whatever you put in is what you're going to get out. And it's not even just a sense of like, oh, you bet. It's like when you're betting, you bet 5 and you win 10. That's easy. It's straightforward. But the fact is the satisfaction comes from how much you put in. The more work you put in, the more you do, the more satisfied you are. It's like when you're at your job and you went from open to close and you know you served like every single dish by the end of the job. You know the hard work you did to get the boat from A to B. Now your job, if you're like cooking, is not as satisfying because you're making money for somebody else, right? But when it's for yourself or for the people around you or for a team or a family, then it's a more satisfying feeling. Even like at this point in time, I think about this, like I don't have like any success by any measure of the external world, right? Like the most I could say is like family. That's like the only measure of success by the external world that I have. But internal, I have every success I could possibly imagine. I've made several albums that I love. I didn't just bullshit it. It came from my heart. Every single word I ever wrote. I produced the records. I mixed the records. I wrote the records. We worked together to make songs. And I can sit and listen to these songs and be like, that shit's real. That's how I really feel. And I made that shit. And you look around and 99% of the people who do it don't do that. They don't have that. Even the people who are uber successful in terms of the external world. Millions of dollars, all that shit. They don't have the thing that's like, I love this thing. And I did that shit. So when I sit and I reflect and I listen to the songs, that's the satisfaction I get. And this is something I told him a while back. I was trying to get him to do his album for like 6 years or however long. I was like trying to get Ryan to do his album so he'd understand what it felt like. When you put the work in, when you do that, Ryan made almost every beat on his album. He was there for the whole, like I helped with the mixing, of course, because I have just like I said, to fill the holes. I have enough experience in that regard where it's like I'm not gonna be like, here, go mix your own shit. Like I know what I'm doing. I can help, but I'm gonna help you. You're not gonna help me. I'm gonna help you make your album. I'm the second in that seat. You're the first in that chair. Just like I said, like the pirate boat. When it's your time to steer the boat, I got no ego. I'll play whatever role I need to play. You know what I mean? I'll scrub the poop decks if that's what it takes, because I don't care. It's not about that. Like it's about when it's my turn to steer, I'm a steer. When it's my turn to be the lookout, I'm the lookout. When it's my turn to row, I'm a row. And period. Because that's what needs to get done for all of us to get to the place that we need to get to. But the satisfaction, I guess, for me, comes from like that, where you have that feeling of it and you know what you're doing. And it's like, well, that came from my heart. And regardless how people feel about it or the comments, it's like, I know that I really meant that when I said that.
So to steer you back a little bit, what do you think, like, to summarize, like, overall, what you think your purpose or OOA's purpose, or what was the exact word I used?
Well, let's just stick to what you were. Because his, I think, is individualized. Yours was group. Yours was what was your perspective of Oceans on Arrival's purpose as a group? That's where that's what you said.
Yeah. So yeah, I get that. Okay.
So, and then he was like, he wants to break down to the individual. So he just broke down individually what he's doing. So I would say now, what do you think Oceans on Arrival as a group's purpose is? As of now. And like I said last time, we don't know because it's a group and it's an ever-evolving thing.
Facts.
But as of now, where would you like to see it go?
In the short future?
Yeah, let's just do that.
In the short future, I would like both of you guys to like be working on your albums where you have it like in progress, or the one that you have, you finish it because you have a lot and I can help you mix it, but you got to come to the studio and we can make it happen.
And like you said, you made how many songs or whatever on paper though.
Mm-hmm.
So now you made 20 poems or whatever you said. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you have poetry, which is great, but then you might want to throw it all away or whatever.
But then
that's just practice.
Sidebar though, I would say you take the poetry and you collect them in terms of pages and you can publish books of poetry and not just music.
That's.
You know what I mean? It doesn't all have to be like this.
And also you don't have to, just because like, say you wrote like a paper, right? Or you wrote like a poem and you're like, it's trash. And then you do that 10 times, it's trash. But then you took one line from each one of those poems and you just threw away the poem that you're trying to write. You know what I'm saying? So now it's like, you could take things from here and here. Even it's like, I wrote this. That's what I've done before. My song is like, I think of something about blah, and I take a couple parts, and then you go over there and you just spin it how you want to spin it. Like Jason talked about in the album interviews, he was talking about, we were talking about the fat sandwich.
Yeah.
And he's like, how the first thing he did it one way, but then he like kind of messed it up the second time, but he went with it, and then he used both or whatever, and that's what he was describing in what he was talking about, with the sense of like you can flip it in different ways. And yeah, and I think that right now, like I think all 4 of us today had a moment today probably where we're like, damn, about something, you know what I mean? So in that moment, like we all have these things that are, whether it's family, money, you guys are moving, you know what I mean? All those different scenarios, new jobs, where it's like these things are whatever. So eventually you're going to find your groove and whatever, but you still took your time out to come here and do this. So it's like, you're not doing anything. So I think what he's more.
Yeah, just to reinforce that, also it's the same shit for Ryan. Like for years, I was like, "Yo, make your album, make your album, make your album." But I knew that like everything that he was doing, like it was almost like no time for him to really do that, and so I knew it would come with time. And so that's the other thing where it's like, whenever it is the time, and it will be what it is. I guess for me, it's like I just feel like and this is because I'm so ambitious, and if we really reflect, like we also have done a lot of stuff, like even doing the podcast now, and even like. This is something that we said years ago. We were sitting outside and there's like a bunch of empty chairs and we're just like, it's just 2 of us here. And now at this point today, there's like 6 of us if we count us all. And I think like even like I'm not sure how involved Keita will be in the future, and you know Katie as well. And then for different reasons. And then I think Bree will always be there just designing and creating and whatever. But everyone has like a role, and whatever they want to fill and however much they want to fill is what they want to fill. And that's that. And so there's really no pressure. I don't see that there's pressure. I think that we could do better, like in terms of like social media. I think we suck in terms of marketing, because everything we've done.
We need to give that back to Bree too.
Yeah, we do.
Like it was so curated. I don't think y'all understand how
I could see
how upset she would get with y'all. And I'm gonna put it on blast because this is something that hasn't really been talked about.
Then we need it.
How upset she would get with y'all because you guys would post something, and it wasn't even the fact that you were posting it. But it was just like once she broke it down, I would visibly see the difference. Like I could blatantly tell, okay, this doesn't make sense with the pattern anymore. Because it wasn't like A B B B. It wasn't like B A B B A C A C. Like it wasn't a pattern like that. But it was just like when you looked at the page in totality, it was this like. It made sense like you're looking at a picture. Like that is a post in and of itself. You could screenshot the page and that would be a aesthetically...
Still art.
Oh, yeah. Like that would be a post. But then when something that we enjoy, it just wasn't like the timing for it within the full page. Within the quilt, whatever you call it. Yeah.
You just did the wrong stitch.
Yeah.
And like full transparency, honestly, I'm like the only reason I would post something up there is just like, okay, so that I'm at least doing something, I'll throw something up there. I'm literally 100% okay just being like anything I have content wise, just sending it to Bree and being like, you do what you want. Like this is what I'll give you. Like with the idea I have for the merch, it's like I'm just throwing you the idea. You run with it however you run with it.
I'll throw this out there too. She's been bored.
Yeah.
She's been bored taking that home life position. Bleh. Every single day she tells me at least like from this time to this time. It may even have been 30 minutes because like taking care of a baby is in and of itself a job.
Yeah.
However, 30 minutes of your job, you got bored.
Yeah.
And in her case, her job's location is in a situation to work on anything.
Yeah.
And so having more than just like art, more than just social media, doing that aspect of just like here, what's your ass? Like you said, you're going to pick up what you want to pick up. You're going to work on what you want to work on.
Yeah.
And so the more that we're all even sharing that, because case in point, we're talking about my album. And that was the real reason I interjected to begin with. But within talking about it, I'm comfortably, if we're talking about it on paper, realistically, I'm done with that first one and about halfway done with my big one. Like, I have so much, like, that book of poetry has been done. I'm on volume 3. And like I told y'all before this started, I wrote probably in total, I think, maybe we'll say 10 undercut. Like 10 pieces that could all be put into puzzles. And about 4 to 6 of them were full pictures, like full songs. And all of it went to the garbage because it's not what I want from now. And I know later on, all of the good that was in it is going to come back. But it was just all very melancholy. It was all things that I didn't want to circle back up.
Yeah. So what I'll say,
and that was the only reason I didn't use it.
Yeah, what I'll say to that is, like, this is one of the things, like, I feel when it comes to time. Like, there was a song that we held because we were like, when Ryan was, like, one of the phases Ryan was working on his album, we, like, held this song for his album. And, like, now I wouldn't put the song out because I hear him, like, I was, like, 19 or 20 then. Like, the bars are dope, but the way I spit it, like, if I put it out today, it's not representative of where I'm at. Like, I'm way better. But so I wouldn't put it out, but because we missed that time. But when you put it out at that time, it's like, oh yeah, that was like, I put that out. That was a couple years ago. Like, of course, the growth is there. But when you don't put it out, it becomes that like relic of the past where it's like you don't really want it because it's like, it's like I played a verse. Eddie was here one of the other days, and I played like an old song, and it was like an old verse, and I was like, the verse is dope, but like the way I spit it, I could do it way better now. But I also don't feel the same way I felt back then when I said it, so I couldn't really do it better now than I did back then, to be honest. So, but it's like, but I didn't put it out, and it's not how I want to portray myself now, because it's not how I feel now. So it's like the best I would say is like if I do a lost tapes in like 10 years, that's where it would go. And so my thing is like the A to B is always the biggest thing, like how to get from A to B. So if A is you have all this stuff done, B is finalized and released. So my goal there for you, but at the end of the day, like I said, we all have different things that we're going to focus on. Like I'm working on the album. I just need a sequence and I need a couple verses from you guys, and then my album is done. I just have to sequence it and mix and master it. So that's only going to take me like 2 weeks to mix and master and do the sequence. Probably I might do some more post-production, so maybe 3, maybe 4. But I'm probably going to release it next year, so I don't really need to rush. But point being is that like for the albums, it's like there is no rush, there's no deadline. Obviously, I feel like the moment where you guys have an album that is on the Oceans on Arrival page from like Spotify and Apple Music, the whole thing will be more real for you guys because now you actually have a full body of work. Like you have one verse on the spot, like up from Steam.
Yeah, there's also the ones on drums and Just Fine.
Drums and Daydream.
Oh yeah,
Just Fine.
There you go.
That one's out too.
And then so what 2? And then Eddie has a couple like
probably like 6 or 7.
Yeah, so 6 or 7, right? So if you shuffle, and there's however many projects on there, if you shuffle, the odds of landing on yourself and hearing yourself is low, right? But the more stuff you have and the more you create, and it's not even about quantity, but like if you have your body of work where it's like every time you meet someone, it's like it's not just showing music that like you do have 2 songs or you do have 7 songs, but this is your album. So you're not just showing Ryan's album, you're not just showing yours, or me just showing one of your guys'. And
I will say that's a different, and I do want to circle you back to the main question at hand because we jumped again. But that is one of the, and I'm going to talk more about this on my turn. That is one of the differences in like viewpoint and perspective for me, because if I'm being honest, when I show people stuff, I don't want to show them my work. I want to show them yours. I want them to hear mine as a like side effect of that almost, because I'm proud of it and I stand by what I do. But to the same extent, that's not why I make it personally. And it's that was the reason my answer for what was art was that. Because I really do write things for me, myself, and honestly, God. And there are some things that I've written, there's some things that I put out that I'm like, oosh. I know that last answer ain't going to necessarily love this thing. I really liked it, but that was also a lot of flesh talking in those. And that's part of the reason I trashed the ones I trashed, because it was very, very much coming from a place of me feeling under attack and me trying to process that. And so it wasn't something that anybody else even needed to look at. It was something that I got out through music in that moment.
I have a couple things I want to throw in there, and then obviously I'm cutting you off, I know that, but one, I'll say like I can understand that to a degree, because like when I first started making music, everything I did was I channeled all the negative emotions into positive ones, and I would never allow a negative emotion to end as a negative emotion when the record was done. It would always be like, if I was angry, I turned it into passion. If I was sad, I turned it into inspiration. And that's what I did. I became a master at transmuting emotion. But then I got older and I realized that I'm missing a part of myself because I'm never allowing myself to actually feel these emotions, because I'm always channeling out of them.
And that's why I don't like that.
So, but then you can also say, well, you also have this standard, and I have songs that if I'm going to sit in a room, I don't want to sit in a room when I press play and you're listening to the song. I'm leaving. Like, I literally press play and I'll leave. Like, you listen to it, I'll come back after it's done. I want you to experience it without me watching you experience it. So I get that. I think that it is important to allow those things to exist, though, because what I'm hearing right now is like you're like the traveling prophet with a book of poetry that shows no one, and I'm the one who's like, that's the way I'm seeing it, though.
I know
whether I'm wrong or right is when I'm wrong or right, but what I'm seeing is like I've come across the traveling prophet with the book of poetry, and I'm trying to tell you, hey, people need to see that. Yeah. Because even though you were like, no, it's just for me, I'm like, yo, people need to see that. It's like what the God or the universe sends in your path to remind you of something that you're not seeing, and I think that people need those human emotions. Like the songs that I made, like that are the sad songs or the darker songs, or just like the ones that I'm not getting lit to or playing for people. Those are the ones that I feel like that's the kid who's like who's depressed at home or going through suicide or like going through hard times, and they listen to that song and it's a human experience, and like, oh, I can understand this, and it gives them something that they can connect to.
See, and that's the whole thing though. That like I feel like a lot of the projects I have coming are that. A lot of them, because it is still, and that's part of what we were talking about with the first album I was gonna make that got transferred into what it is now. It like there's a lot of just raw in there, and I like how much raw is in there because it's supposed to be. It's a ballad of ambition, and so I'm gonna keep the raw. But there are also things that, like, case in point in this time period right now, like your boy's struggling. And so I have things that have come to fruition from that struggle that I enjoy and that I feel need to go out. But they're also, like I mentioned, that list of things that got trashed that weren't even for me. It was all of the thoughts I was hearing that I knew weren't mine. And I had to get that out of my brain.
So then my question is, are those like... I always like when I take it, I'm like a channeler of energy. So when I'm creating, I can channel different energies, and some of them I can tell, like most of the ones I channel are like, it's pure spirits. I only channel pure spirits because I'm a pure person. And every time I hear anything that's like negative, there's the J-Rock line always pops in my mind. He goes, one thing that I've learned all of these years is to block devils off of my ears, like that. And like that always pops in my head. So every time I hear like a thought that's like wicked, that one kicks in my brain. That's like the firewall in my head where it's like that one kicks in. It's like, nah, get the fuck out of here. Like, you're not welcome.
Yeah, I was swimming in that. But I do want to circle back again, because the main question is the perspective on Oceans on Arrival. And I feel like we keep transferring towards like the direction and the goals and the aspects. But I do want to hear.
The perspective is that we want to keep a constant progression.
I mean, I think
what Jason was really looking for is that when we talked about the zoom in, right, all the way, when you zoom in on Oceans on Arrival all the way, who's standing on the sidewalk and what do you look like? You know what I mean? Not skin color, what are you wearing, but what are you presenting? And then, because like he said, he doesn't want to zoom in on Oceans on Arrival and it's Jason. He wants all of us and whoever else is supposed to be a part of it in the future, whatever. And there's people who, like, what? You get, like, an album and, like, 5 years later you get another album from them. So I don't think it's any sort of rush or I'm sorry. Or a rush, like, in the sense of, it has to be done this year or blah, blah, blah. Like, I had the idea that I told you guys, like, 3 weeks ago. And nothing has ever come from it. And I understood that it's not going to happen this year. but I'm gonna make it a goal of mine that by next year it is gonna happen.
Facts.
And then the marketing thing. Right now, all I do is I just post the podcast thing just to keep that up there. That's the only thing that's going out right now. And if we are marketing, like we've been marketing what we have for over a year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like at this point in time, what we're marketing obviously is like not reaching the people yet, or the people that are reaching it to just haven't really connected to what that is yet.
Mm-hmm.
So in the sense of if he's planning on doing his, mine will probably be ready, and yours follows suit in whatever month it is. By the time it goes down, no matter how many songs or whatever, by the time it goes down and we have these things, and then we do that idea at the end. Now when we are full, like Brie has full control. That boom, all through her ideas and boom, everything. There's all this extra stuff. Meanwhile, every week a podcast is coming out. There's always more and more and more and more building. So in this point in time, it's like right now, if we bring them in now, people are going to see 3 podcasts, and then when this comes out 4. But if you wait like a couple months, and now we're in the top of the year, and now you bring it in, now we have like 20, and we have clips from all the different ones, and you're posting those.
That's what we need, the clips.
And that's what I'm doing now. I literally got a journal, and I started watching the first one, or 0000, and every time I hear something that seems like a good thing, like a good clip, I write it down and I write what it's about, like just a little 2, 3, 4 words. Now today, if I'm feeling like what I'm gonna bring up, I can look if there's something in there for that. Boom, put it up, and then we just put up whatever episode it's from, because I hate when people put up like bait clips, and it's like a Joe Rogan for one, and it's like damn, and you had to like be an investigator to find out if anyone knows which one it was, and if no one says it, then you have to look at what clothes they're wearing and like go find them if you don't know who they are, and like go find it, and it's like that's so hard to get to the one thing, but it's like all right, this episode now it's like all right, we're gonna pop up episode 4, like something. I'm sure there's gonna be something that Jason said in the beginning. There's gonna be something in there to clip. So boom, and it's like what episode is that? And you watch it, and then by the way, welcome to episode 4. I don't think anyone said it. We kind of just jumped in. Right into it. If you're watching, appreciate you. So
because we've had
hit the ground running.
Well, I've had,
and that's my perspective on the marketing thing that we talked about earlier. I was just like, I feel like we did the first wave, and Bree saw what worked, what didn't work. Mm-hmm. We haven't taken any new photos or anything like that. We've all been doing this thing, but we're gonna find our spaces. Like we decided like to change days or whatever, you know what I'm saying? In that sense, that would probably have to work out more. So it's like now we're altering how we all move. And once we all find that space, it's like, all right, you have a free like 2 hours, drive over, record a song.
Also, I just want to add right here though, from my original thing of saying I want you guys to do the albums, it's actually more so of just like I want everyone to have something that they're doing, and it doesn't matter what it is. It could be anything. It could be like you're writing a book. And then it could be like you're doing the poetry, and you could be like traditional and like write an entire book of it, and then have that book, and then you can go on websites that can make your own copies of your own books, and you could sell them physically, like because unless you can get in contact with a big publishing agency, just from the ground up, or you could make it a thing where it's like you write a poem and like once a week you drop a poem on the internet somewhere, and that's like part of like the thing that does it. And some people are gonna love the poetry and literally just be here for the poetry. Like every single one of us, imagine you have like 4 stones in your pocket. The world might only like 1 stone from one of us. But if we each have 4 stones and we're like this, there's going to be people who come for just the individual stone. There's going to be people who come for all of them. People come for some of them. People come for the ones that we all share. But there's going to be ones that we have that might be the only one they come for. But then it might be a thing where it's like, let's say someone's like Calvin is their favorite. They just love Calvin. They come to the show like, Calvin. Like but then Eddie ends up on Joe Rogan, right? And Eddie's by himself on Joe Rogan. But they say, oh, that's the guy who's in the band with Calvin. I'll listen to it. Because off the strength of them loving you. Same thing off the strength of them loving you. They'll listen to Ryan. Off Ryan, listen to me. Off me, listen to you. And so on and so forth. Where the circle continues. Or because of our likeness, it allows the spread of information. So it doesn't have to be like music. And you don't have to be. You can make an album in 7 years if you want to.
I'm assuming you do want to be on stage and like sing and rap, right? Okay. We're just assuming that's what okay. Because if that's not, then we don't have to talk about it. But if that is the assumption, then that's what we're looking at.
And at the end of the day, like it is really like for all the music and stuff, there is so much music that like I went to that lady like from the hat shop the other day. Remember we went there and like with the glasses and the purse when we were in the. You remember Eddie?
Yeah.
You're the only one who did nod at me. So I was like,
well, I was listening. I was just waiting
Okay,
for you
You're
to
the
heard.
only
finish.
one that was there with.
Yeah, exactly.
I walked in, but I was like not in a good mood.
Yeah,
I was like, what
we were
the hell?
pissed.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on?
But so I went back in there today,
To fill
and then
the story
of course
in,
the,
they were supposed to go get the car then.
yeah,
We were waiting out in the heat.
The
They were
universe
supposed to
brought
go
me
get the
otherwise.
car, and then this story happened. So go ahead.
And we were in there for like, I don't know, like 25 minutes.
a while.
Yeah.
Well, the universe just brought us
It was
in.
a good minute. It was
And I was
good.
not
At
there
the end of
tonight.
it, at the end of the day, it's all good.
Yeah.
So we meet this lady, lovely lady, and she's talking about hosting this event of like performing, and she's like having venues come out and have like them, each of them, like a percentage of what they make. That's how they pay us. And she just told me that again today. So she was like, "Oh, I really want to do this." I gave her my number, whatever. We switched numbers. So that's the thing where like if we got the opportunity to go perform, if it was like, "Hey, we need you to perform in 2 weeks," we're gonna have to like cram some shit together and do our best. But there's enough music right now that like you guys could not drop an album for the next 3 years and we could still perform and tour off everything, and we'd all make money because there's enough music that hooks like all our hooks, especially everything past like 2020, everything is layered. Where we have ever since we did California and we did like the highs vocals and the low vocals and everything, we learned how to actually balance and harmonize for hooks. Everything is layered, so singing the hooks, each of us have a different tone of voice. Or even ad-libs on like rap verses or whatever it is. So it's like the stage performance will be full no matter what. No matter how many verses, no matter if you're on the song, no matter if it's a song that you guys make that I'm not even on. I'm going to go hard on the hooks or I'm going to go hard on the ad-libs. Whatever the spot on the boat that you need to fill at that point in time.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what will keep the boat moving. So even if we got the opportunity today, there is really no pressure to do the album. Like you could do it in 3 years, 4 years for all I care.
Yeah.
I just want to see everybody doing something that they're like, yo, this is what I'm working on, da-da-da-da. And then I want to see the A to B. I'm big about A to B. I'm big about progress over perfection. You know, because I looked the other day, I have 421 songs posted on SoundCloud. 421. And then that's the ones that we've done together without Ryan's album. So when Ryan puts his album up there, or I just do it, it'll be a bigger number. And so I wrote a verse.
440. Say.
440? There you go. I wrote a verse the other day, and like I said, I'm keeping tally. It's 421 to none. And that's just me flexing. But like that me going and checking the numbers, it's like to me, I'm just like, this is me living my purpose, and I'm producing. It's not even about the quantity, but I can look back at the years of work and be like, this is what I've done. So it doesn't even matter about what it is. It could be anything. I just want to see everybody making steps that are working on the boat, towards the boat. Even if you're on the shore doing some shit and you come back and be like, yo, I brought like 10 chicken legs, like we can all eat. You know what I mean? Like whatever it is, like it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? But as
I
long
got these sprouts.
whatever it is, I got the phone. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, exactly. It doesn't really matter to me. It's just about the output. That's what you do is what you do.
So, what is your perspective then, Calvin?
And
That's a good
I'm
transition.
glad you segued that because that's exactly where I was gonna go because it ties into that. And we've been talking like we've been using my album specifically because I've let you stay quiet about yours.
Well, I just think the main one was because you have like we acknowledge that you make like you make music. Like it's not like you don't make music.
And he has a lot of
And
but you just don't make any music that we can show anybody.
Well, I have music.
You're about to
Yeah,
fall,
but
bro.
you do have a couple.
The mic's pushing me
Ooh,
off.
didn't.
I
Didn't
felt it.
secure it.
I
Yeah.
secured
kinda
it,
like that,
but we
too.
moved the mic box near mine, so I'm gonna blame it on that because I wasn't one of the people that moved it, so that
It was
takes
me.
it out of my hands.
You just hold this part.
Just put the mic box back on the chessboard.
It just fell because of me.
Ow!
My bad.
This is another one for the visuals, but
Yeah, actually, I do. That's one thing. I mean, that was the first one I watched that actually I had to watch all the way through. Like I had to watch every second. 'Cause
Yeah.
I didn't know when or
it was
when
one for
I
the
did.
visuals.
But it was just like, and even so, that's why I really want to get like I don't have the band or the half a band to get the neon sign right now.
Yeah.
But we're gonna figure out
Yeah.
a way in the next like couple of days to get it. So it's like because I know that even though it's gonna hurt me to spend $500 now,
It's gonna be.
it's gonna benefit
lit.
having the neon sign right there.
Yeah.
Lit.
And then I also want to get posters of like I want to get my album on a poster and different things like that.
I want to
And
get the merch idea that I just did on posters.
you know, and then I want to
Facts.
set up this room so it is
Or
like
the
more
one that
soundproof.
holographs and it rotates through all of them.
You know, and Keita had an idea or Bria had an idea for we could put like a rod right there. So instead of having to do like this whole thing, we could just like even wrap a blanket or whatever and just like pull it over it whenever and just take it off.
Yeah,
when we
true.
want.
That's smart.
But I definitely want to build up this room for that.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Continue on with what you're.
But yeah, so
Your
my
perspective of ocean.
perspective of oceans, right? And I feel like I'm gonna have the most different perspective. And I feel like I've also talked about this a lot this week, and that's probably because I'm supposed to give my like final answer here, because my perspective is, I think very business about everything, and so in my head, this is one of my favorite businesses, and that's the reason that like even music is important to me, because it's always been important to me. But there's stuff out right now as Calvino and as Calvino solo. And so that aspect of like having it out, yeah, I feel
true.
you
That's
on
true.
that.
It is out.
But I hit that, and that didn't strike me the way that thinking, like the things I think about for Oceans does. And even when some of those things are songs, and I'm like, yo, this is gonna be dope. Like the thing I want to cover for people that partake in medication, and that set of songs that I've been talking about, and the visual that comes with that set of songs, like that's something I am passionate, and I do work towards that, and work towards thinking how, because with that the songs have to match the visual has to match the song, and the story is the main bloodline of that. And so I've really been, that's one of the things that I'm doing. That's why I say like I'm definitely putting in the, I don't know about the hours, because I will say it, but this is my ongoing background task. And that's why I say it's my favorite business, because of all the things I've taken on recently, this is the one thing that in lull of everything else I'm always on.
It's like still on the grill
Yeah.
regardless.
Yeah.
So when that
Slow cooking.
Slow
that
cooking.
second job at that big place
Yeah.
that I have right now, I work in a situation where I'm around a lot of people.
That's true.
It's yeah.
It's a lot of
It's
people.
it's a lot of moving parts, because it's a position based on events, and so there's a lot of people that come to these events. And one of the things that I've come to find is one of my biggest thought processes every single day I walk into that building is, how do I follow what they want me to do while still pushing the narrative I'm trying to get across to all of these people? Because I can't like just drop a stack of cards.
You gotta be the best. Once you're the best,
yeah,
then you can get away with whatever you want.
I will say this, because I haven't told you all this either. Within this department I work in, those, every single one of them, I'll say suites, because I feel like that's okay. I work in a suite. I work in the biggest suite, theoretically. Not the most expensive, but the like most important suite, like the owner suite. Every other suite requests me every event. So the first day, the owner suite's not like, hey, we need you, I'm going somewhere else, because every single suite in that building knows me by name and knows how hard I work. And so that was kind of dope to hear from like my direct boss's boss told me that. And I was just like, holy crap, because the first day I met her, she was like, oh, you're the infamous Calvin. I was like, actually infamous, or are we talking good? And she was like, well, I do a lot of like figuring out where you're going. And I was like, what do you mean? I work here. And she's like, I was like, all right, that's kind of dope, because now that means the clubs department is also looking at me. And I've heard that. And I've heard that even there's another department that, and like even the lady in Dish is like, yo, can I get you for shifts? And that's so crazy. In my head, not even just the people that are coming, but more importantly to me, how do I hand the people that are working a stack of cards and get them to also think, how do I get this to people that are coming?
And I think that's what you just said, be the best, right?
Yeah.
Continue being the best. Don't slack, and see that there is this, because at the job that when we were all working together, you saw where you could get to, but the person who is there is not going to let you get there because that's his job. So at that point, it's like, where's the growth? There's no opportunity besides making more money. That's the only opportunity that there is, making more than I can make anywhere else. But when that is not the case anymore, and you can make more elsewhere or whatever, and then now this place, where is a big place, physically and metaphorically, full of opportunities, its own ecosystem, economy, and that's why I have a big thing about, like, when we talk about game 6s and game 7s and things like that, where it's like, it makes sense why you want to have this whole thing run another game or like have people come to this because you got 80,000 people in this one place. Everyone's it's a whole day. You feed people there, and you feed people who are working there, and then you feed people who go home from there because of that. You know what I mean? So it's definitely a big opportunity to go there. So
and so my main perspective is that it's my favorite business. And I do treat it as such. That's
and
part
it's
of the
marinating.
reason. Yeah.
Makes sense. And that's why, like I said before, just as long as you're doing something every day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And now it's, and like even Jason puts an idea in the group chat and then Bree comes back with some sort of response at some point. That shows me, you know what I mean? And I never knew that she never had a pen or whatever. You know what I mean? So I would have done this like way before.
Communication, that's also big.
Yeah.
If we let each other know what's going on, then it's easy to understand, like see what everyone's doing.
I'll also say this too, because like me and her had a like huge talk, and it was like just one of those like, okay, here's where we're at in our marriage. Here's where we're trying to get to. Here's the progression we've made. Why? Like, why did we make good progression? Why didn't we make progression on this? Da 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 da. And within one of those talks, like we brought up oceans, and it was funny because I got her perspective before coming, and her perspective is primarily like, I would love to make a job out of this once it's capable.
Yeah. And that's a big thing Jason and I talked. I've had multiple conversations where I was like, bro, once I have enough money to pay you, I'm going to call you. Because it's like, right now, like Eddie is the first person to have jumped on board and not got anything beside any like monetary funds from it. He even put money in, and we didn't recoup the money. You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
that's facts.
At this point,
right now.
But Jason and I also, first time we performed together on stage, we paid to perform it.
Yeah.
So it was like, at the end of the day, like, we're invested.
And they try to debo us and not let us perform.
Yeah.
We had to just sneak by the guy. We're like, we're getting on this stage.
So we made it happen, and it's on YouTube, so check it out. But, you know, in that sense, it's like, we have, sometimes you have to force your way in, and sometimes but the $1,000 or whatever that goes in, like tenfold will be back when it's like they say with the bet, like, you know, if you put a $10 bet and you win and you only win 20, but you put 1,000 and you win 2,000, that 2,000 feels a little better, like that you got something for it, because now it's like 20. What can I do with this $20? Like, what did I actually do?
But also with the business that we're dealing with, like, once the landmines go, it's explosive. Because and the more avenues of money there is set up, like right now it's like essentially two. Right now it's music streams and then the podcast now coming up. Those are the only two avenues that we could get paid, because the website is like looks nice, but it's not fully set up. I don't have the shop set up.
That's part of the reason why I said like that's where my brain thinking about it as a business, because like I mentioned the basketball thing, I was like, we could definitely do this.
Yeah.
And it's things like that. I'm heavily what's the word I'm looking for? Like fixated, not fixated, but like fascinated with the concept of presented by Oceans on Arrival. That phrase right there.
Oh, was it Prestige Worldwide?
Wow. And so that's why, like, my perspective, and going into like the individual aspects, right? And when I think of my place in Oceans on Arrival, one of the biggest things I think of is really the fact that I'm not all 10 fingers hands on, and I try to best capitalize on that fact, because it's not beneficial that I can't be. Yeah,
but I think you might not have 10 fingers hand on, but you have one finger in 10 things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, and
which would be the entrepreneur of.
Like,
and that's what I mean by that, in the sense of like, I can't be full palms, full everything, hands on, and within where I'm at in life. And I'd love to be, but I can't. And as a result, though, one of the things I try to focus on is like the concept of, like, case in point, even though Bree was the one curating that page, when I looked at it, I look at it most like the audience would, because you have all invested. Even Eddie, we talked about it. You are all invested, and I am invested emotionally and physically sometimes.
Well, you invested by even time. By just putting in time.
But it's less of an investment that allows me to see it from the what's the word I'm looking for? Partaker, from but more so the consumer. I have a very decent consumer perspective when it comes to Oceans on Arrival, and that's where I think presented by. because as somebody who was a fan of Oceans on a Road for a long time and then got inducted, I still think in terms of that presented by. And it's still, I know I'm part of that, but I'm able to kind of still look at that like outside perspective. So I try to, like, even thinking about my album and about what roles I want you guys to play on my album is like I've put a lot of thought into that. And one of the things I felt real bad about it at first was I couldn't find it. I couldn't find where y'all's roles were because it was supposed to be a solo album from when it got transposed from. And like that concept that you were talking about being that solo, I fully saw that. And it wasn't out of like, oh, I want to be Drake. It wasn't out of, I want to be this like standalone guy. And granted, Drake has like OVO and Drake and da-da-da-da-da. But I didn't want that like solo. But I wanted my voice. And that was my thought process on it. Was like, this is the representation of my voice. Too, so. And
that's my point. I think there's at least 10 songs that you can cultivate. That's your voice that you want to share with the people in some sort of time frame.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And,
also,
and
it's just
part of the reason I want to get this first one out. Like I've been talking about it. Like most of the times I come here, I bring it up, and I stopped recently, and because I'm not feeling that stream that I want to be on to.
I feel that
reach that bank. But I want to get that first one out because once that first one's out, that will be what does it for me.
I think it's a release.
Yeah.
Metaphorically, spiritually, literally. When I did mine, like what happened right after I finished mine, I instantly helped my dad move out, and we all moved. I moved everyone around. I spent the months and then resetting up the nest here, months and months and months. So after I did mine, like, I didn't have time to relax. I didn't get like a million streams. Even now we're on the Bahamas. It was like back to the third dimensional grind of trying to figure out how to survive, blah, blah, blah. But now when I look back, it's like I have this thing that I did that people can look at and people can go find like at any moment. Someone can go like find me.
But that's what I mean by like I have a different perspective on that because I really don't care to put it out. I really don't. I just want to get it out of my head.
I feel that.
I want to get these things out of my head, and that's why I wrote those other songs.
Yeah, but what if
music?
What about this? Like, what if? What's a good one? Because I'm trying to think. Like,
what if to get it out of your head, you need to put it out to the world?
Like, what if Absol said, "You got it," to Kendrick? Then we never had terrorist threats, and we never had this, we never had that. And I'm not saying that. Every song you make, you have to. Every time you hit record, you have to put it to the world.
No, and
but blocking off that you even want to, I think that taps into what he was saying. Was basically like, I think that someone in the world needs to hear 23-year-old Calvin, and someone needs to hear 19 or 20-year-old Calvin too. But they might not understand that yet. But they need to hear 23-year-old Calvin to understand 27-year-old Calvin. Like,
or maybe they need 27-year-old Calvin to understand 23, but if 23 is not out, then they won't understand.
But and
or even for yourself, like, put it like this. Like, imagine, like, you have this entire life, and then you have the ability for your next life to make it a lot easier for yourself to remember yourself. When you don't put anything out in the world, it all goes away, and now it's just your kid, right? But now you're still going to find yourself in the next life again, you know what I'm saying? But it's going to be a hell of a lot harder than it would be if you allow certain things to be out there for you and other people.
See, but for me, it's not it's not a fear nor lack of want to put things out of the world. Because there's a lot of things that I've literally said, yo, let's go do this right now. Like there's one specific song right now that if all of you were like, yo, I love that, let's go do it, and stop, like cut the podcast, I'd cut the podcast and come back to it for that song. And I don't even know if I've brought it up because I also want it to be that kind of energy once I bring up that song. Where it's just like the second it's brought up, the second we talk about it, bang, it's done. And it's out. However, I think
I know what song you're talking about.
You might. You probably would.
Say the name. What's the name?
That's a note search. Because every time
So I thought I was thinking of something different.
then maybe not. But every time I like scroll through my notes, which I funnily enough did before this and had that moment, which is why the song's on my psyche. But it's one of those that like I literally don't hold on to it in my brain, and so it's not something I feel like needs to be put out. But every time it's in front of me, it consumes my whole brain while it's in front of me. And that's why I said I feel like that's a timing song.
Yeah, I think I can understand. The whole thing, to me, like the metaphor I'll give is like you're building a chandelier. You put the diamonds on at the end. So it's like if you're at this point, that's where I'm looking at it.
I'm not. I'm more so.
So what are you doing with these diamonds, buddy? All right, you tell me.
That's my thing. That's my thing, though. The diamonds matter as much as the glass to me.
Yeah, definitely. That's why I said you put the diamonds at the end.
No. Because I don't. Whether the diamonds are in the middle and you can't see them, whether the diamonds are literally in the lining, I don't really care. And that's my whole point. It's just a matter of like the chandelier got built. And there are times where I want the chandelier up, so I'm working on it. And there are other times where I'm like, hey, the room's fine. Okay. And that's why I say my perspective on it is very different. Because it's not a lack of ambition either. Because I'm very passionate about this music. But it is primarily what's on my mental, what's on my brain. What is supposed to get out of my brain, what's supposed to stay. Because the days that my album's on my brain, the days those songs are on my brain, I'm writing verse. Because even if I write this full song of verses, I constantly am throwing things I've already written on the things we're doing because I'm like, hey, I'm probably not going to use that for the song, or I want one of y'all to plug it in. And then that means I have this verse. And that's why I say, like, the book of poetry would be on volume 3 because I have a ton of those. I write full songs without a beat because it's what is on my mental that I'm getting out in this moment. And that's it. Y'all make fun of me all the time for using YouTube beats. But it's because I go to YouTube and once I hear the thought I'm having, I put that down. And then the next time I hear the thought I had or am having again, it will ping that sense. That's why I said it's going to be a timing thing. Because it's going to be a time where we're all sitting in the studio. That's when that song's going to drop. Not when we record it. That's when that song's going to drop. Because the second like it hits, that's when it hits. And that is what music is for me. And that's what I feel like the visual content is for me too. Because even like this, doing this. The fact that I miss 2, like it irked me, but it was also like in my brain, it happened.
Did you watch it?
Not yet.
What'd you watch? 3? 3's up, right?
Yeah, 3's up.
Did you
So not watch 3 yet.
I've done the same thing with all 3, right? The first one got like somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes in, and then had something else to do. And I was like, I want to be able to focus on this.
I can't wait till you guys watch it. It's hilarious.
The second one dropped.
I watched like 15 minutes of the second one. I haven't watched any of the third one. I probably watched about 2 hours of the first one.
I got like 5 to 10 minutes.
The third
in,
one,
and I had something else to do.
The third,
yeah, I keep doing that, and so I feel like I'm gonna end up never watching a single one of these because I'm gonna keep doing that.
But that's also
I'm
good.
a binge watcher.
I'll say that about Russ, right? The artist Russ. There's so many times when I try to listen to his music, I end up not getting through because like I get like 30 seconds through a song and then it just motivates me and I just go do some shit that I'm motivated to do and I'm not listening anymore. So in a way it's like I give him the one stream but the job is done, right? I get the motivation like that and I move on, and that's I think the idea.
And also I think I feel like if you're present in the moment, you're gonna hear everything that you need to hear already. And then I want to focus on it too, which I am, so I make the time because I actually do want to do that, and that's why I got the book and I'm going down and I'm an hour through the first one, 0000, the album interviews. And it's cool to go back and hear some of the stuff because I was like, hell yeah, I said that, or like I forgot I even said that and that. But also there's a perspective of if you know you don't have the time to watch all of them and like really focus on them, then. And you know that if Russ blah blah blah, then why not just put him as the background?
Yeah.
So whatever, if you're cleaning the house, why not just put it? Why are you stopping it? Because
me and Bree started watching episode 3. We were folding laundry, and she was like, "I stopped folding," and we stopped.
Yeah.
And it's because it wants to be the primary
But then
focus.
maybe that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to, and then at some point you're gonna be like, wait, we stopped.
See,
And you go
but
back,
in this case, like case in point, it really is just time frame. Me and Bree were talking about this today too.
but you're
Because
driving.
my
How
lease.
often are you in the car?
I mean, sure,
How far do you drive?
True.
To short hour time to work.
that is valid.
1 hour.
I mean,
there,
I
1
haven't
hour-
driven at all this week. I haven't had a car.
Yes.
But
Well, when you do have a car,
my car broke down.
when you do have a car, and you go and you drive
Okay.
to work, or
Okay.
vice versa.
Go ahead, finish.
You know, you got an hour or so there, hour or so back. The album interviews is 4 hours.
Mhm.
The first one's 3 hours. The second one's 2 hours, and the last one's 1. And
this
this one's gonna be
that's
more than
10
1.
hours.
So at this point, it's like you really do have the time.
Yeah.
But when do you think about it? Like you said, when do you think about doing things? Which also I think brings back into the point where it's like being on the ship. In that moment, it's like, because I know that if you go back and watch it, it'll only help you when you're back here.
Mm-hmm.
And then that only helps me when I
'Cause
go
you
back
see
and edit
yourself.
it. 'Cause I see myself. I see what everyone else says. I think how everyone else would react to hearing themselves, and that's how I view it. And that's what I decide what to cut out and what to keep in. And you know what I mean, and just go like that, and just make executive decisions.
Ryan's just making us look good, really.
You know, but at the end of the day, it's
I hate it. I want the ugly.
No, you don't get that.
You should have
But
heard
yeah,
it.
yeah,
You hear some of the stuff? I was like, Jesus, this is not good. Like, we need to
Yeah, but also
figure that out.
I think what the thing about is like being okay, knowing that we're not like live on it, like we're not. And the one thing that we said that I actually really liked was we're like, oh, we're live, and then we're like, wait, we're not live, and then Jay says, no, we're alive. And then,
Oh, I said that?
yeah, we're
Yeah.
alive.
That's a
It's not
bar right
like
there.
we're alive. Every time
Yeah, I need that. I need that clip.
Yeah, literally.
Where's that
We're
clip?
All the
alive
new
right
music's
now.
just gonna be
Right,
cuts from
yeah, it's
podcasts.
hard.
What do you say?
All the new music's just gonna be cuts from podcasts. Things
Yeah,
you
I
said
need
on the
that.
podcast
Yo,
were
that's a
like,
great album idea.
Here
Got
we
'em.
go.
That's bars. Look, we just take little clips that. Oh shit, I'm way too close. We take little clips, and of like just awesome bars, whatever. And we drop a podcast album.
Yeah.
I'll promote the podcast.
And that's the opposite idea of what we had, where it was like everything I edit and cut out, make that a whole compilation. And then at one point in time,
Like
in
episode
history,
1,000. We watch all the
Just
stuff.
like-
We drop all the stuff we cut out.
But there is some stuff, and that's where I was like the respect of the mic, and just in the sense of like we have this opportunity now, and respect of me personally being the time that
Yeah.
like you know that you don't even have an hour to watch it,
Yeah. Right.
and you want me to edit it. You know what I'm saying? And I don't have a
I
kid,
forgot.
but also I have other things to do that have
Hey, I did episode 0, and that took me like
Yeah, that was a
8
big one.
hours.
That was a 4-hour one.
To
You
edit.
have to
That was a
wait
long
out
one.
for the
And that one we had different camera angles, so every time someone talked, I had to like cut it, like stop it, cut it right there, wait till they stopped talking, cut it, and that's their bar. I just kept going over and over and
Also,
I
over.
think I did like the last like 45 minutes with you on
Yeah.
that one. Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
on the other flip, you say that you like to help and stuff like that in different things. Like, in what instance, if you guys create a goal to get a computer of like some sort or whatever, now you have the iPad and stuff, but a computer to you see what I do,
Mhm.
and then at the end of the night, you just take the podcast stuff with you, like the video and the audio, and you just take it with you, and you do that.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And then that could work too, and I could work on a music video,
And
or you could work on a music video. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's different things that we
And,
can
like-
do but we have to create the stations at all the places if we can't make it,
Yeah.
you know, because I can send you something online.
Even you saying that right then, it reminds me, like, one of the things I'm super excited for is to see me next podcast. I'm super excited for that. Because, like,
Nice.
my lease is over tomorrow at my apartment, and I move into my house.
Nice. So it's gonna be new.
We can
And
do one at
so
your house.
It's a
Loki.
whole, it's a whole different even thought process and mentality towards it.
Facts.
And so I'm super interested to see that, because there's also a
Nice.
lot, like, my car broke this
Yeah,
week.
that's a big. And that's
My
why I
kid
say,
got sick this week.
That's why
Like,
I said,
there was a
did
lot
Did
of.
I say, was there not something today that all of us had a moment to
Yeah.
where we go, damn?
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna say what mine was, but
I'm trying to think what mine was.
there was. It was probably mine was early in the morning too, so
Mm.
it was just like.
Mine was not. Like, mine was probably like 10 minutes before Eddie said on the way to come pick me up. I'm so serious. Like,
honestly-
I'll share mine.
Okay.
Mine's not too bad, but
Okay.
it's a good one. So I'm on the way to work, driving to Atlanta, and the I have a personal vendetta against this GPS, and I'm gonna say it. I hate the Apple Maps. They're so bad, and because it will take you
I
like
like
I swear it
Apple
takes you like the most
Kinda like
traffic.
Apple Maps too.
It takes you through the most traffic. I
It definitely
swear.
does. It does.
Well,
Like it's like a magnet for traffic. and you just go into it and you're just stuck there forever.
I agree. That happened to us today. We were driving.
Yeah, they got
There's like
something
this
to
way
do.
we had to go drop his car off because his car was broke down, and we had to go drop his car off. And I like kind of know the way to the place, and like the way that it took me was not really the way that was like I think the most efficient way. And we just
Exactly,
and then
like,
like it
my
like
car
it's
was
you know how like when
struggling.
you're turning and there's like 2 lanes to turn in and it'll be like the arrow will show you if you need to be in a certain one.
Mhm.
The arrow just like either one's fine, and we pull up to it and it's not either one is fine, and like one of them's a completely different direction. So I'm in the wrong one. So it took longer to get there. So I do think Apple Maps is worse than like Google Maps, but I do like Apple Maps better.
I love
But-
Apple Maps.
But so
So
I
I use
really
it.
do.
Also,
I'm
but
driving on
are you
85
someone
now.
that just like hits go and lets Apple, the Siri, take you on your merry way?
not anymore. No. Now I'm looking. I'm trying to find like the fastest
'Cause
routes that I'm
I'm
obviously not texting and driving
like-
or anything like that. Trying to look at it, of course.
Like if,
Don't text and drive.
when you guys sent me your
Facts.
address and I looked up how to get there, I'm looking at like I was back in 2005 and you had to look up MapQuest and you printed out the things.
Mhm.
Yeah, I remember
You
that.
make a turn on this road and then you make a turn on this road.
I'm not
and
doing
I'm
that.
looking at that. That way when shit's going down and there's something in the road, you know, at least you know your bearings, what's going on. And you can, I can probably go left here and it'll be okay because I know that I'm really just going that way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
See, I do that, but I primarily do it with buildings.
Buildings.
Yeah, like I'm the guy that will zoom in and I'll look at all the buildings around because I'm like
Yeah.
because I also in my head want to know where I could stop, like on my way there, even if I am being directed. Like let's say my phone dies, charger breaks, like where's somewhere I could stop and get a charger without having to just drive and look, because I want to have that idea, and then as I'm driving, I confirm these places that the map said, and so I have an idea like, all right, well this building would be here, and then so that's how I get there.
But to
Yeah.
finish my story real
Sure.
quick, so I was going down 85, and then I was like, you know what? I'm taking 285 because every time I go in 85, I'm always like 15 minutes late.
Yeah.
So I'm going, and then it says accident ahead, and I was like, man, like I could just keep going, and I would take off my exit, I'd be there so quick. But like they said, there was an accident on the Apple Maps, right? So like it directs me to go on I-20. I'm just like, no. So I go down I-20 and have to go all the way back into Midtown. And then go up 85 anyways.
Yeah. So, but,
So, like,
but you could have just went on 285 still.
I could have, but I had risked it. It would have been a risk.
But
Yeah.
also that was because there was an accident there.
Yeah.
But also there's no fact like if you know 85 takes you whatever so long, and then you just like so you took the conversation. I know I can go on 285, but that redirected because there was an accident. If there's no accident, you're just going on 285 until it tries to get you back on
In the
85,
mic.
or you know where you're at, and then it'll eventually it'll what I'm talking too loud.
No, you're
Too
talking
quiet.
stuff.
Oh, it'll redirect you into but where it makes no sense. It'll make sense to go there. Then.
Yeah.
Like once you get to the city part area, then it's like all the streets is gonna tell you the same way. But the highways is where they, you know, and it's definitely at the same time. If you do use the maps, you are allowing yourself, just like if you open up Instagram, you're allowing yourself to be susceptible to the internet resources.
Well,
And what they're
also,
sending you, so you're susceptible to how your life is going to end up because you're following what the phone is telling
It's like
you.
the Rick and Morty crystal.
well, yeah. So that's exactly it. Is what I was gonna say was it's telling everybody to go this way. So it's automatically gonna be more traffic there because everybody's going this
It's
way.
trying to reroute
So if
people,
you
everyone
look-
using the phone.
If you
So you
kinda
should
look-
turn it on and just not follow it, and that's the best way to get there. You know where everyone else is going. Use it as an anti-maps.
And I will say
I think
this,
guys, if you use
Yeah,
Google
I'm
Maps,
talking
Google's doing
It's
similar
pair
shit.
maps.
Same thing,
It's just
same
Google,
thing,
Apple,
yeah.
which one you want?
I ride to Atlanta with the lady that got me hired at the place I work in Atlanta, and she'll do that. And it was the first time I even really thought to take that particular road. I'm not gonna say it because I don't want to put everybody on, but it's like literally, it's basically a road for trucks, like for the big semis.
Oh, that's road. No, okay.
Right, and we had stopped to get. I think she wanted coffee before we went, and so I like sat in the car. She has a Tesla, so she put me in dog mode, and I was
Wow.
like, "This is nice." And it made me feel kind of some kind of way. But anyway,
It's dog mode.
you know, Teslas have like climate control,
Okay.
and so you can leave it on certain. Like that's the reason
So you
Teslas.
can leave
It's
the car,
safe to
you can
leave
your dog in the car.
It's safe to leave your dog in the car.
Damn,
They
she hit
have-
you with the dog mode.
The worst part is,
Crazy.
no, like,
so you a
typically-
dog.
typically-
Get my coffee.
Typically, she puts on the climate mode. There's a specific thing that says climate,
Okay.
and then there's one that has the paw print. That's for your pet. She put it on pet mode.
So was she saying like, was she like, you a dog or like you a dog? Like which one was
Are
it?
you my dog?
Yeah.
Or you a dog?
I'd
I
be
don't
like,
know.
you got
I
that
don't know.
dog in you, or was
because
it like?
I really didn't even say anything
Which
to
one
her
was it?
about it because I was just like, she's the kind of person that'll bring that up. I think it's funny, and so she'll keep bringing it up, and like she'll tell other people. And so I was like, I love her to death, but
Yeah,
I was like,
that's
I don't
funny.
want it.
And when she sees this
I don't-
podcast, she's never letting it go.
She's
now.
probably not gonna see this podcast. I
Never
brought
know.
this up to her several times, but she's probably not gonna see this podcast. Her
Eventually
might.
she'll see
Her
it.
daughter, I was friends with the daughter,
That's
but
all, yeah.
They will all
I want
eventually see
children,
it.
man. Except I
but
do put not for kids. I have
she-
put not for kids on all of them so far.
You have to though.
Yeah.
I do that for everything.
her
Swearing.
daughter's not.
She might see the
kid.
clip. We could clip it.
Clip it, add her, send it to send it to
But-
Tesla. What's this about?
So she goes down the road and like we're front and back semi trucks and going and we're just sitting here basically riding alongside 85, looking at 85, watching for when the traffic cleared up, and then we got on. And I was just like,
But
these roads are right next to each other. We're basically going the same because with traffic, they were probably going slower. They
Exactly.
were definitely going slower because the time was
The thing
decreasing
about
as we were
traffic
doing it.
is, I'm gonna tell you what traffic is. Traffic is
Stupid.
semi trucks changing lanes and
Mm.
not respecting the change back. Once they get past what they're trying to do, they just sit
Mhm.
there and then they sit like this, and they go like that, and then you have a whole line. People who are on their phones,
Mm-hmm.
and then people who like to sit like 5 car lengths back.
Mm.
That's traffic.
oh, that's my least favorite person. The person who's like, it starts to go and they just wait and let space and everyone just takes them. Like that's my
Like,
least favorite person.
Because if you had one lane that was like, you can't stop. You know what I mean? Like 0.1 miles an hour, you're still going. You know what I'm saying? But people are on, like, we were going to the game yesterday, and this dude is like literally like this driving in the left lane, and there's like
A
10
lot of
car lengths
space.
ahead of him, and you
Yeah.
got 2 trucks next to each other. Instant blockade, can't go anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got people who are all in the left lane going speed limit, not respecting. Like obviously you don't have to speed, but if you're in the left lane, the common laws of the road, like
Yeah.
everyone knows.
Me and him were talking about that.
Invalid.
Well, I was talking to him about it. I was like, I feel like there should be a even further left lane
Yeah, I agree.
where it's just like,
no speed limit.
yeah,
Yeah, no speed limit.
Yeah.
And if someone
that's
pulls
the
up behind you, you
expressway,
get the
right?
hell
Also-
out the way.
I was also saying, you know how they do like the written test and they do like the driving test.
mm-hmm.
There needs to be like unspoken
Speed
like,
test.
like a, what's it like common courtesy test of like these are the courtesies of the road.
Mm-hmm.
Like if someone's in the left lane and they flash their lights at you,
You
over,
move.
let them pass you. You're not trying to go as fast as they
Yeah.
are. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, add that road. And trucks can't go anywhere besides the 2 lanes. They should never be able to go in the 3rd lane ever.
Dude, and I switched lanes from the like second lane to like the left lane, and the dude behind me literally speeds up, and he's like driving halfway on the thing to not let me in. I looked at him, I just flipped him off, and then he backed up, and I went on him. I was like, what are you doing, bro? Like, why are you doing that? What is the point?
Common courtesy driving things. If let's say it's later, it's darker, you're driving, you see a crap ton of like deer on the road, right? And you pass them, and you see somebody else coming. Whoa! You see somebody
Sorry,
else
guys.
coming.
Ooh, I like that
Yeah,
sound.
that was
Right?
what saying.
I know, right?
I'm gonna sample that. See someone passing.
I thought that when he set his cup down earlier because it made it like a nice reverb sound. But
Oh,
anyway,
facts.
if you see somebody else coming and you just pass like a crap ton of deer that are still on the road, what do?
Flashing.
Yeah.
People don't know that. I was talking to a large group of people
Yeah.
and I was
Lift
telling a story where I flashed this guy for a deer and they were like, what? And granted, some people have only lived in the city, so they don't experience those things. So I think a common courtesy test
Or
would
cops,
be
or
fire.
cops too. When there's a cop parked and you
Yeah,
pass
yeah,
them
yeah.
and it's
You
dark, you
definitely-
flash
you
them to
flash
let them know. Because that
They're-
flash just makes you aware like what's going
Yeah,
on.
like let me
Yeah.
slow
And
down
then
and
you,
figure
like,
out why you're
yeah.
flashing me.
Because I've had like
it's
I've
in my
Cop,
zero.
if a cop, and this should be like allowed, like if a cop's driving and see someone causing traffic, that's a detriment to everyone.
Yeah.
Like if you are like
A danger
trucks
to
going like
society.
this are the cause. Like I literally, when I had the rental car and I was going up north, and I was really like in like a newer car, so I could like drive, really drive. You know what I mean? And I literally hit the gap between these 2 trucks, and I look back because I'm a mile down the road at this point. And then literally it's 2 trucks like this, and I see all the cars, and I made it through.
Nice.
And I was like, that saved me so much time.
Nice.
Just like, not even time that I'm going to make it there, but it's going to make up time for when I get slowed down
Mhm.
later.
Yeah.
All of this, I
Just cut
escaped that all because I was aware enough to hit this gap within the second I had the
Very
opportunity.
nice. That's why I wanted to.
You know? Now I was just being on board. I didn't have anyone else on board, so
Yeah.
you know what I mean. You feel you
Little-
only have your life in your
yeah.
hands, and then
Yeah.
the other people around you. You know what I mean? But really, people like looking at their phones. That's such a big thing. Like texting, like they're not looking at the road. at
Yeah.
all.
And you know what was crazy to me, and this is how I know traffic's just like kind of bullshit, is because when my car broke down this week, I was on 85, and I was in the fast lane because it was just muscle memory, and I knew there was something wrong with it, so I was attentive. But the second it started, I got over,
Yeah.
and I was surrounded by cars. But I took my time in getting over, like took the time I had,
Yeah.
because my alternator went out first. And if you know cars, you know now you're driving on the battery, and you literally have like clocks ticking before your car's about to just die. And so I felt it happen, and I was like, shoot. So I got over safely, tried to pull it up in the exit, didn't make it. Basically was next to the exit sign on the side of 85. Didn't cause traffic, didn't fuck up anybody else, it was smooth. It was casual.
Yeah.
And there are people that would be in that same circumstance and let their car die in the lane.
Yeah, it's
Now you
crazy.
Now you got people swerving behind you and everything.
People
Yeah.
stopping really fast.
Honestly, I just had a
yeah.
thought. I would love to see like a study or a documentary on subconscious driving. Like, how much is your subconscious really driving?
Dude,
that car?
okay, that just reminded me of memory. So when I was driving once in the left lane, sorry, not related to what you're saying, but maybe it is. A dude was broke down and literally parked in the left lane, and I was whipping, and it was around a turn, and I had to turn on the inside between the car and the barrier, and I squeezed through and didn't scratch anything.
Nice.
But I was like shook after that because I was
I
like,
saw-
"What? Like you're literally parked in the
we
left
were
lane."
riding together when we saw that dude standing behind it, waving his arms. There was some dude, and it was like the second left lane, but his car was broken down, but he was standing behind it, like waving his arms, trying to warn people. But I'm like, dude,
Get out of the way.
you're losing your legs.
Bro, did you see that one lady
What-
who
what
was
were
looking
you-
at her phone, and there's like a broke down like one of those
the
trucks
ramp,
yeah, one of those, and it's like a low ramp, and she really
I shouldn't
goes
be laughing at that.
70 miles an hour, 80 miles an hour.
It was just such a
off the ramp.
cartoon thing.
And just went flying.
Yeah, like
Hell
GTA
yeah,
style.
dude.
Literally a stunt.
GTA style.
She kind of deserved it, though.
Damn, I gotta find that video.
But like, how are you driving
I
if
wanna
you're
know
not
what-
looking at your phone?
That's
Like,
bad,
what are you
bad.
doing?
Like for you to
Yeah,
really.
if you're eating like getting fries, like you're still noticing. Like
You're
you're like, ah,
And are you not hitting the brakes once you hit something?
you know.
Like, are you still like, ah?
Well, to be fair,
I don't know.
like she was going so fast that was literally like just.
Not
You
fast,
might get
yeah.
there, but then, yeah,
It's
you
too late.
But
Did she land? She
So what I
died?
was gonna say was, do you remember when we were driving home from the job that we all worked at? Right, we were driving home back
Rest
to
in peace, if she
the
died.
house that we used to live at, and got the green light going through. We had definitely had right away, and that car just like literally flew out right in front of us.
Eddie
I
saved
just
our lives.
barely saw it. You
1000%.
know what I'm saying? In the corner of my eye,
Eddie
just saw
saved
its like headlight.
because nobody else saw it until it was there, and it was literally just like a
It would've just
thank
been
you.
annihilated, so-
Like
It's
it was one of
literally- I
those
was like
things-
almost all the way in the other lane,
it was
like
literally
driving
just
away
like
from this
thank
dude.
you. Like
Shit
there's
was
nothing
crazy.
else to be said in that moment except for thank you because I was just like you just saved our lives,
That's crazy.
1000%.
You know.
And I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And like I was honking my horn as soon as I saw it. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, oh.
Wait, did that lady who went off the ramp die?
I
I'm
don't
not sure.
remember.
Because I just said that she
not
deserved it, but I don't want. If she
I
died,
know,
rest in
that's
peace.
why
She
I'm
doesn't
looking
deserve
at
death. No one deserves
But-
If she's not. If
um,
she's
On that note,
if she's dead, we will cut it out. If she's alive, we'll leave it in.
Leave it in.
because-
Hope she gets a speedy recovery, but stay off your
Yeah.
phone.
I do want to
Fair.
segue back into
We can
our
cut it out.
When you drive, yeah. Honestly, no one can argue that that's bad.
yeah.
Which that would be a cool study. I would love to see the subconscious, like
Yeah.
that would be that subconscious driving. And it's
I'm
just
nice.
Like, my
nice at
subconscious is
subconscious
beautiful at driving.
I'll tell you a story.
Dude, I don't like say that with like glory, like.
And I'm not gonna say what led me into these circumstances, because that would be incriminating. But I was whipping it down these back roads, and I had to I hit this one back road, and there was deer running on the back road, and like a flock of them, and they're like running, and I'm like swerving, going mad fast, to the point where I'm swerving like it's a
flock of
flock.
deer?
No, it wasn't. It
What
was
is
a
it,
flock.
herd, a pack?
No, it was a
It's not
flock.
a pack.
I don't
It's
I
a
don't know
flock.
what it is, but it's not a
It's
flock.
not
It's
deer.
definitely a flock in my story.
I know a baby deer is fun because we looked that up
Yeah,
the other
yeah.
day, but
But
In
a
my
herd?
story, it was a
Is it
flock.
herd?
I was just thinking.
Because they had wings. So
It might be a herd.
It might be heard. I think it's probably.
Let me tell you what you didn't heard. My story. So,
Yeah.
so I'm driving. There's this flock of deer. It's a flock in my story, all right? And they're like whipping, and I'm just okay. The story
Heard
sucks
on
at this
that.
point. Story over. But I didn't hit any of
You
them.
dodged a deer, I'm assuming.
And I was like, I look out the window and see the deer's eyes just staring at me like.
Did you die?
No, I was alive.
Oh
You
man.
made it out.
That's
Made it
wild.
out.
Exactly.
We can keep it in then.
Exactly. But it was pretty lit.
Well,
Not a scathe.
so I think so. Eddie, what would be your perspective of?
Yeah.
So,
What part of the flock are you?
Block it here.
I'm actually part of the herd.
Heard.
No, you
Oh, I thought you were trying to.
I like flock better,
Oh,
to be honest.
What part of the ship?
Part of the ship, part of the crew.
What's the turtle? What's the in Nemo? What are they called? What do you think?
School.
They seem pretty chill.
School of
Yeah,
That's
it's
school
definitely a
fish.
school.
That's
I don't
school
like that.
turtles?
School of Turtles.
The Ninja Turtles.
I feel like
Murder.
it's a squad.
First of all,
Spotted turtle.
It
hold
should
up.
be squad.
This is the
It's
question
not.
I had before. Actually, yeah. I'm gonna say no. If we're Ninja Turtles, which turtle is everybody?
I feel like Eddie's Raphael. Or not Raphael. Eddie's Orange. Michael.
Yeah,
Mikey.
Mikey. That's what I was
They
thinking.
make
Mikey.
Ryan Donnie,
Yeah.
and then I'd say
Yeah.
you're Raph.
Yeah, and you're
I
the
would
other.
agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I feel like y'all would agree with that.
Ryan literally has the purple hair right
Somebody
now too.
draw that. Somebody draw that. Send it in.
Dude,
please.
yeah, that should be a merch.
That'd be
Please.
fire.
We should
Somebody
get
draw
Bree to do
send it
that.
in.
I love that.
Well, I don't know if I'd want to drive that as merge because then we got to talk about rights and talk to them.
What she's
That's what I said.
saying.
I'd rather
Oh,
see
yeah.
it as fan art.
Yes.
Just a concept
I
art.
would rather
Yeah.
see it as fan art. Yeah.
Just concept art.
I'd put it up somewhere as fan art, like repost it. You know.
Yeah, facts.
1000%. I'd love that.
And I'd
share
sell it
that.
on the low. No, I'm kidding.
But to answer
Just kidding.
my own question,
Michelangelo.
No, that wasn't his question.
that wasn't my question.
Yeah, I know.
It was
I
your
know,
purpose.
I know, but it's just perspective.
Oh, true.
Purpose and-
Oh,
Ocean
here's
on-
the-
Ocean on Arrival.
What is Mikey's
Michelangelo's
That was such a
Ocean
hard
on
silent
Arrival.
pause for something that I didn't feel like. I was just trying to slip it in there real quick.
Oh my
Bad
God.
Calvin.
Okay.
I don't understand.
So your answer.
Okay, back to Eddie. What were you saying?
So my answer would be
Don't kid. No. I'm sorry.
when I first joined, I feel like it was mostly just like to make music and like be in like a group that was like passionate about making music, you know, and like because I saw it from you a lot, and like Calvin and I were like we made music together. And we had another friend that we made music with, and that I would still love to make music with, but right now that's not happening.
Shaky.
And then I saw how like passionate both of you guys were about it, and y'all were just like real, you know. And so I was like, I bet let's do it. If y'all are cool with like me using the equipment with making music with you guys, it'd be fun.
Hell yeah.
But like more recently, I feel like I've just been like reflecting on myself, and reflecting on like what I feel like my role on the pirate ship is as of this moment.
Mm.
And I feel like I'm gonna use this analogy that you used a while ago. That we're all like, let's say like we're all like in a cylinder, but it's like the ocean isn't like a cylinder, right? And we're all going around, and me and Calvin are like this like little spinning rotation thing, and then you and Ryan are like the foundation of like the walls, right?
Okay, I'm following. I like it.
I feel like I'm not explaining it very well.
I'm visualizing
But, like,
to what you have at this
Yes,
point.
but I will also throw this out that when I gave that analogy, we were in the mindset for this analogy, for like we were seeing it, and so, yeah.
And so
Hurt.
I was wow, what was I going with it? No, so we had like we were like rotating like this, and it's like this like beautiful little
Like DNA
harmony, you know what I'm saying? And so like sometimes the wall might expand, sometimes it might contract, you know, depending on like whatever we are. Like right now the wall is contracting, like literally y'all are the walls, right? Like this is a perfect example, right? Y'all are the walls right now, and we're in the middle of you guys, and we're close.
Giving
right now.
birth to Eddie and Calvin.
Yeah. Do you want me to pick up?
Yeah,
on
you
it?
can pick it up because I can't remember exactly how it
was
works.
because I was thinking about like imagine the 3D version of the solar system where it's like the sun's flying and everything's spinning around, and I was
Yeah.
thinking about that with Oceans on Arrival, and I was like, well, Ryan would really be that like middle core position, that just solid line running through, because you're the direction that all of us are kind of rotating and following around. And I was talking to him about how me and him have always had this like DNA strand within our lives where we'll have off seasons, we'll have seasons where like we're inseparable, blah 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 blah. We've known each other our entire lives, and through that, once we joined Oceans, we kind of started spinning around that like core. And you've always been the guru, the one that reaches out. And so I've always seen you two, like your two dynamic as him with the solid, stable line and you with the wide orbit around it. And so that's where he says the walls, because it's not a matter of like left and right wall. It's core to perimeter. Because you're the one trying to like snag things in your gravitation and sling it in. Yeah. And Ryan's the one trying to make sure that us all, the navigator, Oceans, are heading to this direction.
Streamline.
And so our DNA strand that was almost 2D started spinning, and we're still doing what we're doing around and inside of what y'all had, which makes the whole structure of Oceans.
You know what we should do? We should make that one of those 3D, like one of those visuals.
3D model.
And then like we can have that as a background at the concert.
We'd have to get back into the mindset, but yeah, I'd be down.
But so like I felt for like a little bit, at least like the last like 2 months, I needed like some time to just like sink down and really reflect on like what my role should be. And I still don't know if I have like my full answer right now, but I want to really it stems back into what my first question was week 1 was. I feel like we need more community outreach. Yeah. And I think we need to be more involved in the communities that we live in to really grow. Yeah. And I feel like maybe that's where I need to start focusing towards.
Sidebar.
That's very kin of you.
Well, that goes into what the lady wants to do, right?
Yeah, that's just true. Another thing I think is people, usually it's the older crowd of people I talk to, they always ask, are you performing? Yeah. But there's really, like, if we're being actually real, there's really, like, no great place to perform around here. And everyone looks at Atlanta like it's some great thing, but Atlanta is, like, it's like you gotta know people, otherwise you're not getting in, period. And so it's like, but where we live, it's not really like that. So I thought of this during this podcast, where it's like people always ask me, like, oh, are you doing any shows? And I always explain to them, oh, yeah, like I was performing back at this point in time, and I stopped because because, like, I stopped performing because, like, it was just beat. I would go up there, I would do my songs, and like nobody gave a shit at all. And I'm like, I realized that the people I'm performing for, these people they don't listen. They're not here for it. They're not here for the music. They're not here. They're not there for that. So they don't get it. Like they don't get it at this point in time, and I don't think that's gonna change. It's the same crowd.
Well, we did when we did pay to perform.
That place was different.
We were actually at like a venue.
Yeah, we won the crowd over for sure. So even though we had some haters, dude. The dude who hosted the venue was hating so hard, bro. He was like not trying to have us, but. It is what it is.
So in that sense, but the other place was more of like a open mic restaurant.
Yeah, so it wasn't really the same thing. So but I thought of this answer.
You're performing your soul out, and they're just like
eating soup. That was when I stopped. The last performance I did, nobody came. Nobody that I told, like my parents didn't even come. My family, no one came. I was by myself.
College, by the way.
Yeah. So I go to this place. I'm by myself. Not a single person I know. Not a single person I know is there, and I'm doing these songs, and I had already done some of the songs. Every song I was performing that night I already done at that venue, so I wasn't doing anything new. And I look over, I'm on my first song. I look over and I just see this lady scoop a thing of soup, look up, and the soup just falls out of her mouth. She looks back down, just scoops and keeps eating. And I literally, right in that moment, I'm not even thinking about the song anymore. I'm still doing it. I'm not even thinking about the song, and I'm just like, why the fuck am I here? Like, this is ridiculous. And I contemplated, I was like, should I just walk out? As I'm doing the song, I'm still doing the song, but in my mind, I'm like, should I just walk out, like, right now? That'll make more of a impact if I just put the mic down, unplug my shit, and just left. They would have been like, oh, what was that about? But then I was like, nah, I'm going to still hold it down. I'm going to finish the set, and I just left immediately right after the set. But I thought about it. I was like, it'd be more dramatic for me to just put it down and leave right now. So I stopped performing there. But people ask me, they'd be like, oh, when are you performing? What are you performing? Da-da-da-da. And I always say, like, oh, like, I will again. Like, I was doing it back then, da-da-da. But now I feel like the better answer is be like, oh, in order to perform, we need to grow a bigger audience. So we need people to listen to the Spotify page so we can prove that as evidence. So when you show the promoters, we can get into the venues. That's what I'm going to say now. I haven't been saying that. I just thought of that. That's a way better answer, and that's the easy way to shop off the cards. Because a lot of people ask me, oh, like, when you can perform, like, the regulars that I encounter. Like, when you can perform. I'll just be like, oh, I can't until you listen to the stuff on the Spotify. Because really, I want people to listen to the catalog and get familiar with the music. I really don't want to perform again until we're performing in front of a crowd who actually know the words. But I will. I'm willing to, but I don't want to until they actually know the
At
words.
least have the crowd of people they want to see you. They might not know the words, but they do want to see you. So
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
or I'm down for a festival, like a festival vibe.
Yeah, if that was what it was, it
That's
would have.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm down to do it, but I'd rather perform in front of like there's some people there that you can look at and they know the shit. You know what I mean? And they're going.
I would say for you, you like I feel like your roles, your role is the fact that your role changes, in the sense of like when you first came on, like you said you were a fan first, where like you're bumping the music and I would just come to where we're like, oh dude, that's dope, like he's bumping the music in the back, you know what I mean? Like even now, like the music's not bumping to the and someone the regular I think why does it do that? And I just go, I don't know, like I'm not gonna be like here like out here like selling myself like to you. Like I was like, if you're actually who we thought he like tries to present himself as, you know, he would have already thrown it in. He would have already thrown it in rotation. So I was like, I don't feel the need to like try to get anything from this guy at this point. So I was like, whatever. But in the sense of like at the time we were talking about it, we went around the country. Like you were the one who was more out front of like we're always on a ride, like blah 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 blah.
Oh,
Yeah, you gave out more wristbands than everybody
and I was
else.
content with sliding into just like almost like taking it as a vacation versus like we are here to do certain things, but also like more of like enjoy just going around the country versus like trying to make it such like a business mind like you like that business. Try to remove myself, but then you would always bring it back because we also are out here for this, so it's like it's our opportunity. Boom boom. So I think at that point in time, and then like you said before, I think in your profile you also put was like bringing people together. Where it was like Cal and I were like work friends, and then I came over to your crib like like 4 years ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was actually technically friends with Calvin before, but then Calvin told me that he was going to the military, and then like COVID hit, and I was like, so I just thought Calvin was like gone with the wind. You know what I mean? Like I just like
MIA,
you know what I mean? And we played beer pong once, and I came over just like smoked one time and blah blah blah. So I was like, I was just roughing like even just that like 4 years ago we were literally like work friends. And I was like a 23-year-old like graduate. You're like 19, 18, like graduating high school, like trying to figure out like just like in similar places but completely different. Like I had seen so much from those times, so I was like, you know. So when I went to play beer pong, it was just kind of geek to me because I was like, I saw where you guys were on at the time, and I'm like in the middle of like now I'm working at this place. I'm trying to figure out life. Like my plan like didn't go as planned, and you know what I mean, and all the different stuff. But in the sense of like then you hit me up to work at the new spot, and then from then it was like now also your roommate was a big part in the sense that she would always be like the one to like have people over, which I always will appreciate that no matter how we feel, how the energy is now. Just like that moment she wanted to create those things where it's like people around, which then inevitably brought us to you when you might have not even wanted us around in a certain
The first time I came over to your house, she invited me over there.
You know what I'm saying?
And I didn't know what to do with myself because like I didn't know anybody at all. Like you knew some people, and like I was like in the corner playing chess, and I was like, I can't be that guy sitting in the corner.
Before then.
Oh, okay, yeah. That you came over before then.
I think one of the main days was like
I didn't know the timeline.
Like the first 420 at the crib over there, and it was like we all were talking. You know what I mean? And then like I told like I make music and all this stuff and blah blah blah, and then time goes on, you start playing the music and boom boom, and then we start hanging out more, and then, you know, one thing leads to another. That job falls through, and then you guys work at the next spot, which created it all just started when now it's like now you became the forefront, but I had no Calvin before I was able to meet you. You know what I'm saying?
I was just talking about,
and then now it balanced back where it's like now you were the forefront for Calvin to come back on this end, because at one point Calvin was going through having a baby and the work thing, and it was very like the third dimension was hitting hard. I could tell.
Yeah.
Whenever I saw Calvin, I was like, "Damn, third
Okay.
dimension's got it." You know. So in that sense, but then through time, it's like we work through things and we grow.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. So I think for you, like your role at the time, at the beginning, was to like just be the fan still, like tell people about it, and then it was like now you're starting to make music, and now like I understand the perspective of going back and being like, what is my purpose in this? What am I supposed to do with this? And for me, getting the album out was that clarity, and we're now have no doubt of what I'm supposed to do. And I know what the next album is going towards. I can see it happening, and that part also needs everyone else because I can only do half the album. I need everyone else to do the other half. That's the beauty in my album, is that it's not all me. You know, the other one was pretty much all me, and Jason helped, and you know what I mean. But it was like I want it to be like mostly me. you know, and I compromised on the songs that I felt were necessary to still represent me, but also were the good addition to having someone else's voice on there and stuff. So I think your role now is still yet to be defined what the next role is, but you've had these different roles over time already, and I think still even being the person that tells people is still always going to be one of them. It's for all of us.
Definitely.
Mostly, like, you're always one to, like, whatever, like, you're wearing the shirt right now. Me, I always just change into the shirt because I pretty much is my wardrobe.
I was just
You
thinking
guys
that.
aren't wearing it, but
I
you've worn
think-
them before. On the
I
other
think
podcast,
we're
too.
pretty much, and
This
I'm
is
gonna
my
have to go
first
back.
time wearing a
Yeah,
shirt on the
yeah.
podcast.
I have
I'm
not
gonna have
worn
to
one
go
on the
back and check,
podcast.
but I think we're usually 2 and 2,
Yeah, we are, and I noticed that outside.
and that's
And I
not
was like,
planned.
that's cool.
Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
I'm
never
always.
planned.
I have not worn a piece of merch on.
And it was so funny because like
That's
we
hilarious.
talked
I
about,
always wear the
he has, just so we can put it on the podcast, he has my hoodie. Well, it's actually my wife's hoodie, Bree's hoodie.
Which actually was mine, and then Ryan gave it away without telling me because I never wore it. I was like, "Isn't that mine?" And then Bree was like, "Don't." This is like, "No," and I was like,
Well,
And
we
so
were mine
he
because
has-
mine was like worn down.
Yeah.
Like the logo on that was at the time was very crisp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's like that's a little more. Worn
So
down.
he has the hoodie, one of the OG pink hoodies, held hostage because I borrowed his shirt.
one of two actually.
I borrowed it for the first one. That was the
yeah,
first
it was
one.
the first one because you
Yeah.
wanted to change it.
It was the first one, and I was wearing name brand, and I was like, "Yo, let me get an Ocean shirt. That way, that's the name brand I'm rocking."
Yeah.
And so, that's how the 2 and 2 started, and I took it home, and I set it aside today with mine, so I could bring mine and wear it too, and then didn't bring yours either,
Right,
so he
wasn't
still has
the
the
time.
hoodie.
That's
And
hilarious.
we ended up 2 and 2 again because I picked up this shirt, and I was like, I could use this shirt for today because I had a rough day today. And so I put it on,
Hell yeah.
and
There you
then
go. So
never
did you
took it
have
back off.
anything else you want to say about your perspective
Shoot,
with
yeah.
guys?
Yeah, Mike. I feel like
As far as a group, I guess.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. For like the group, I feel like.
I feel like I have one good.
They want to come back to it.
Yeah, I can give you a second. I just want to say because of the other ones, I just want to, if we go back to origin story stuff, I want to go back to a couple things. Like one, I remember the first time I met you, Eddie, was with National Tequila Day,
Yeah.
and Ryan
Oh,
invited
yeah,
you over,
yeah.
and this is when me and Ryan lived at a different house, and Ryan was at a different house, but we were at the same house, like we lived at the same house, but you were at a different house at the time. And then I'm like at home, and he usually would get off at the time. He's like not there, and I'm just like, I'm calling him like, "Yo, what's good? Like, where you at?" He's like, and he's just, I could tell he's just drunk, like
Okay,
wasted.
mind you, before this, I get home and my sister's like, "It's National Tequila Day. We're gonna drink," and I was like, "No, I got work in the morning. Like, I'm not doing that." And then, but at the same time, like but then she had a couple friends over, so I was chilling there for a second, and then she like goes downstairs. So I'm really waiting just to say bye to her. And I was like, all right, if this girl doesn't come up by 12:30, I'm just going to leave. But if she comes up by 12:30, I'll take a shot. And then she comes up at literally like 12:30 on the dot. Classic of her to come like right at the deadline. Walks upstairs, and then Lou's like, all right, let's take a shot. So I was like, all right. So then I started taking shots. And I don't know what happened after that. Like that, and I hit something.
Got plastered.
And I got just absolutely, like, I don't know what it was. 'Cause, like, I've drinking tequila before.
It just hits you.
I've chemically balanced two things before. And all of a sudden, like, I don't know what hit, but I was just, like, down bad in the morning. I was super down bad. I went to work, thugged it out. I was, like, puking in the bathroom. Got off, like, an hour and a half early. Couldn't make it all the way home, so I stopped at our other house. At my dad's crib. Laid on the couch for, like, 5 hours. Still felt so beat. Rolled over onto the golf cart, limped home. Went to Jason. Was like super down bad. We decided to go see a movie, and we sat in the movie theater, and I ate popcorn and had a soda, and was just in the darkness.
What movie was
for, like,
that?
I don't remember what movie it was, but after hours, I got out and I felt great. I was like, "That's the cure." 2 hours in a dark space with popcorn and a soda and a movie, and you're good to go.
I want to say this too because like there's a lot of weird things about the origin, and it wasn't until I was talking to some, like I said, I've been talking about oceans a lot recently, and I think it's because I've been making like bigger connections with new people at all the new jobs and blah blah blah.
So just
But-
natural to.
Yeah, have those conversations, and I went through the lady I brought up earlier, right? I went through just how everything happened to get to this podcast specifically. And like even the meeting of my mother-in-law and how that went down and how it was your fault But
fault for
I'm
what?
not the first time I met my mother-in-law,
Oh.
Bree's mom. It was horrible.
It was a pretty
And
bad
it was
story.
1,000% his fault. And we talked about how
Nice.
we talked about like
Eddie
no
does
ifs,
have a
ands, or buts.
secret power of introducing people, though.
Yeah, that's what Eddie's
does.
the kin. Eddie's the kin.
Yeah.
Like through and through. He just makes correlations.
That is
and
his
connections like that.
superpower.
But we talked about having like a podcast designated for origin
So
stories.
crazy.
But I want to like have a storybook because when I was telling this lady this story, and I started from the top, because the question was like she had asked me 3 questions in a row. She was like, "Well, how'd you meet your wife?" And I went into that, and then because I had talked about us, she was like, "Well, how'd you meet the boys?" And I started going into that, and I was like, honestly, all of these stories, and whatever the third story was, how'd I meet somebody else? But all of the stories were correlated by that pivot point.
By
Because
you meeting your
how
mother-in-law?
how I met my mother-in-law led to that first
Facts.
job,
Yes.
which led to the second job because of my first date with my wife, which and like everything, the way
That's
it stacked
so
up,
funny.
everything
That's crazy.
from that pivot point
Yeah.
led to this moment right
Yeah. I mean, obviously,
so,
Calvin didn't go
I
to the
welcome.
military.
here. Calvin did not get in the military. Calvin was
So-
a day away, and we'll talk about that one day. I'm not ready to talk about that
exactly.
today
But-
because I don't want to talk about military right now, and it's for a reason. I'll tell you off screen. It's nothing bad, but it's just like I was shook when it happened.
One day.
But I remember, I don't know. Eddie texted me for some reason. It was National Tequila Day. I don't remember why.
It's because you
was
blasted
something
me.
else.
You're like, you sent me like 2 voice memos, right?
Oh,
And
did I?
And you're like, yo, Eddie, I might be late, bro. Like, just like that. It's like, it's National Tequila Day.
I remember not being a part of that and like hearing about it and just being like, "Damn, I wish I was there."
I feel like Eddie felt the fun energy.
I felt the
so-
fun energy, and I was like,
He's
yo.
like, yo, what are you doing? And I was
Because
like,
that was that was the
whatever.
first time.
He's like, can I come over? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not?
That was the first time that we talked. He was like, "Yeah, I'm about to go hang out with Ryan." And I was like, "My ride? Dope! Like, have fun." I think I was going to work or
It
something,
was
so
the
I couldn't
pure
come.
catalyst
but,
right
yeah.
there.
Yeah, that's
But,
So
and
then,
you
hold
come
on.
over.
So
But
I come over.
I don't want to keep. I brought it up because I want this story to happen, but
Okay.
I don't want to keep talking origin because I want to write a book. I want to write a book that has all.
I just
of
want
these
to.
different
I feel like
origins.
everyone got their moments. I didn't get my
Yeah,
moment.
that's
Let
what I
me
said,
get my
I wanna
moment.
hear this
Get your
story.
moment. Get your moment.
So then, yeah. So Ryan is like, I'll still make you look good, Ryan. But Ryan was like drunk and he's just big up and Eddie.
But also,
And-
where's another time can you point me out like that? I was like that.
Never. That's what I'm saying. I'm not gonna make you look bad.
That's
Or
the
even close
shittiest
to
I've
that
ever
in
seen
the,
you.
like in
ever.
Yeah.
recent time.
Like I said, I'm not
it's
gonna make you look
it's not
bad.
all the time.
I'm not gonna make you look bad.
So you're even
It's
good on
just like one of those
vacay.
unique moments.
I was one.
Yeah,
I was
but
hoping
anyway.
to see you on vacay, but I didn't.
Ryan was big up and Eddie, and me and Eddie don't even know each other. So, but I'm asking Eddie, like,
Sorry.
I'm asking. You know
A
what?
story that's
I'm done.
never told.
No, I'm asking Eddie, like what he does or whatever. And at the time, you guys had made music, but he didn't say anything. You didn't say that you made music. So I'm like asking you questions, like trying to figure out like what, because every time I meet people, I try to figure out where they can fit in. And like I said, I met like over 100 artists where I work with them in some regard and try to figure out where their mind's at. And so I'm asking you questions, and like you didn't tell me you made music. And it was just, I guess, smart, right? It's a smart move. And so I'm trying to figure out like what your
It wasn't like I was like trying to make a smart move.
But anyway, so we ended up like I was like, okay, well, you know, it'll all figure out eventually. But then we ended up playing a couple games of chess. So I knew you like a little bit, and I guess going into that party, that I came over and I was playing like chess in the corner, and I was like, I shouldn't be this guy who just like doesn't know anybody, and like no one knew me, and I'm gonna sit in the corner and play chess. I can't do that. Yeah. So then I went outside and tried to like be social, because I'm like, if I don't know, I'm bashful if I'm in a room with people that I don't know, just because there's so much energy. But then fast forward to like when we were all playing like beer pong or beer ball. I feel like after like a certain point in time, and I talked to Bree about this like I don't know like 2-3 months ago, like kind of in this regard. I feel like it came to a point in time where like Bree like became annoyed with like Ryan and I coming over there, because then you became like
She was annoyed with everybody though.
yeah. I didn't take it personal.
Yeah.
And so at that
That's
point,
my point, that we came over even if we might have not been wanted.
yeah. And I obviously it's all love to Bree when she sees this. So that was just like a time where it's like we were playing the games, but I felt like the way I understood it was like she was probably like, we're taking you away from like the way she's looking at what you should be doing, and so that she's like, oh, I just felt the unwelcomeness of the energy, and then obviously there was a lot going on, and It's exact same thing. Like when I was talking about the conversation earlier, when we were outside the restaurant, you were telling me about all these ideas. At that point in time, for me, it seemed like your mind state was that of like what you were trying to build, we were also trying to build, but you had your own thing. So when at that point in time, the way I felt, and I told Eddie this one time, is like, I was like, I don't know if his thing will be our thing, because I felt like you were doing like your own thing.
And we even talked about that when I was inducted. Like, I still have that thing.
Yeah, 100%.
And that will always be, and it definitely is bubbled in, because like I talked about, it will be something I want you guys to have access to.
Yeah.
But that thing should be that thing.
Yeah, we all have our own things.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, I didn't like, I felt like through talking to you, like it felt like to me like you weren't, for lack of better word, like ready to like integrate into the grand scheme of like what we were doing. I felt like you had your own.
Well, it was also because at that time, like if I'm being honest, because I remember thinking, I was like, I definitely could go make music with them. Like we could start doing that, and that could be a thing.
Yeah.
But literally within the same breath, I remember in the moment thinking, I don't want their words. And it wasn't anything for you. It wasn't anything against y'all.
Yeah.
But it was also like, even when we did the perfect week, I hated it. And you can attest to this. I was so miserable.
It's so weird, dude.
Because it was day
Yeah,
after
doing
day.
something you really don't have to do and
And just hate it.
Yeah. Because it was.
You're a unique guy.
It was.
I hated it at the end.
It was.
That's why you're Raph. You just.
It was his.
Angry
It was
about
his
it.
fault that I hated it, and it was his fault because it started off like nonchalant. The first song on the perfect week was a song that we had written. It was a song that we had written years before.
Welcome to our
and I'd
22-year relationship.
Right. I finally gotten to the point where I just kind of could record music, and it wasn't great quality. It came out pretty nice. Like, it wasn't terrible, but it was all off my phone. And like, he had seen this thing, and he was like, dude, we should do this song that we had made years before but never had the chance to record. And I was like, fuck yeah, we still own the rights to the beat, everything. So we were like, put that down. Then the next day,
And in my mind, I'm like, own the rights to the beat. What you mean?
well,
Make that
we
from
still
scratch.
had yeah.
But no, I'm just kidding.
Then
Don't get me started.
the next
Yeah.
day, we're at work, and we just start like finding the same wavelength on what's the second
All the
song?
best.
Yeah, because we were pissed off at our boss, like royally pissed off. So like we hit that hook hard, and we were just like, yo, that should be the whole song.
That was the only
And
one that
then
we made in the morning.
I went on break and whipped up a beat for it, and then like fine-tuned it throughout the day. I was just like had it on repeat, and I was fine-tuning. So by the time we got back, I was like, yo, we could throw this down real quick. And then as we were recording it, he's like, edit it and put it out. And I was like, nah.
Did you?
I did. Like, the entire perfect week was made the day before. It was actually made the day of and released the day after.
And wait, correct me if I'm wrong, but these are the songs that at that one point in time where you potentially had a show, you were gonna perform these songs.
That was
a different
that was a
time.
whole different
whole different
set,
time. Yeah.
But these songs were just
But
like
around the same
day two,
yeah.
and I posted it like, and it was on the second day, and then we started working on the third song that same day. And so the next day we were at work, forgot about it. Once we got back, like the setup was still there from the day before, and so I was like, oh, well, I did want to do it. Start playing with the beat. He's listening to me play the beat, and he's like, yeah, let's just do it. And so after the third day was done and we recorded it, we were like, shit, we got to do this every day.
Hell yeah.
And so we did it, and I was like, I'm not doing more than a week. Like, fuck that, because it's one thing, like, being prepared and doing it. It's also another thing, like, having the equipment to just do it on the fly. But everything was done off my phone. Everything.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Audio recording, mixing,
Must have been
mastering,
hot.
Everything was done
Must
off
have
my
got
phone.
hot.
Like, even production, because I made the rest of the beats for that entire week off of GarageBand. So I'm sitting here like just trying to, in a 24-hour time span, make an entire song on my phone. And so like I did it, but I was fucking it because I was also working 12 hours a day. Yeah. So I really had 12 hours of not being at work if I'm not getting sleep for the shift the next day. And we did it. We put out a perfect week. Made it happen. It is far from perfect, but it is perfect for what it was supposed to be. And so that was 100%. The music we made. And that's the reason, like, we never
That's dope,
really
though.
Check it out.
Even
Spotify, Calbina.
promo on it. And I
SoundCloud,
realized...
not Spotify.
Not Spotify. SoundCloud.
I like where your head's at.
Yeah, exactly. Facts.
Subliminal messaging right there.
Technically, Calvino does have a Spotify.
Technically, I have like
Yeah,
I got like 20 files.
It
I
does
could literally
exist.
in secret make your album and drop it without you even knowing.
I would.
I wouldn't do that.
That would be words. I don't even think
You know-
I don't even think it'd be upset words. It would just be like.
Then what if
yeah,
it blew up? How would you feel?
I still wouldn't like. I told you. That's not
Okay,
my
okay.
mindset.
Okay, what if
That's
I
not my
made the
mindset.
album? I'm not gonna actually do this because I am
Obviously,
gonna spend
but
the time
theoretically.
making my own album. But if I did it and made the album and not drop it, but I was like, "Yo, check this out," and it was like a
I
fully
mean, I definitely listened to it. I
produced.
did.
CD.
That wasn't about. That was just
Cassette
hear it out.
tape.
Like, I'm not gonna not hear it out because if it's what's in
Vinyl.
here, then
Vinyl.
you got it.
and you have
And
to
it
go
might
buy a
also
record player to listen
stir
to.
what's in here to actually get done. But
What if
I
it's
do
just
know.
on a? No,
I
Ran out of
loved
things.
doing
On
the
your
perfect week.
Walkman.
yeah,
but I
Walkman,
hated
monophone.
that week.
You gotta crank
hated
the
that
thing.
week.
Obviously, that just shows that that's not how you're
'Cause it was-
actually supposed to make music.
But
for
it was
yourself.
also
But it shows that you can.
it was funny too because
Boombox.
you guys have seen How I Met Your Mother, right?
The show?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I know what it is.
Yeah,
I
so
heard it.
you know the
I have
character
seen it.
Barney, who's he
Like,
played by? I can't
Neil
remember.
Patrick
Harris.
Neil
Dinosaurs.
Patrick Harris, right? Neil Patrick Harris character, very much so playboy. He, when he was worried about getting fired from his job,
I'm just gonna overlook that you just said
Wait.
that.
huh?
I didn't hear what you said.
No, keep going.
When he was when he was worried about getting fired from his job, he went on a perfect week with
I'm sorry.
women where he picked up made sure he picked up a chick every single night, and like a different kind of shit. And it was very for the joke, and it was very womanizer, but that's his whole character in that show. But regardless, it was funny too because like we were going through hell that week. Like,
It was a rough week.
There was
for
a
work,
lot
yeah.
of things popping off at work. There was a lot of things popping off at home. There was a lot of change. There was a lot of, and so it was really funny because it wasn't even something that we pieced together until afterwards. That like the reason we did it was the same reason Barney went on that perfect week, where it wasn't until it was all said and done, like the week of music was said and done, that we were like, "So how was your week?" And we were like,
That's dope.
It was like it sucked,
Yeah. But also, I think it shows.
but you didn't feel it because we were
it
focused
shows
on the
you with
music.
all that stuff going on, you still took the time
Yeah,
to
be
do
creative.
something
yeah.
that you felt like you needed to do in some, whether it was on a scale of 0 to 100, if it was 100 to 0, whatever it was. There's some, so that just shows that even now, like back to my point of we'll find a groove, and then everyone will find those things. Like Bree has 30 minutes a day when she's bored. Jason threw a task in there.
Yeah.
We'll get back on like the marketing stuff, but I think that we should just attack it with like a new season. Like
Also,
you said,
low
it's a
key-
season, right? Attack
low
it
key.
like as a new season.
This part I do want to cut out, unless you just want me to wait. Okay.
Get
What
back
time is it
into
right
the
now?
uncut.
Doesn't matter.
Oh shoot.
But yeah, no, and I feel like because I think you're the only one that didn't answer perspective, but
Yeah.
you've also kind of given your perspective.
Well, mine is very short and simple. I've thought about it.
Heard.
I think that Oceans on Arrival, the group, the purpose is to be an entity, a role model for kids and people like to do and follow what they know is their purpose and follow that. Love, do things together, and just be a good role model for society, for people in general. Just like the fact that we're all sitting here as friends, we live together, you guys live together, and if we had a big enough house, I'm sure we'd figure out a way for all of us to live together. You know what I'm saying? In that sense, it's like we're showing people a different way to do life than just in one that they show you in your face. And then I think that's just the overall goal. Like, there's going to be things like you're going to have your ideas. Like he said, he's going to want to do the games. I'm sure you're going to want to. We're all going to have ideas within different things. You guys just brought up the animated show. I have an animated show. I have tons of. I already have the YouTube idea that we already thought of. We just got to write it out and do the storyboard and just get it done over time. So it's like we have these things that we're going to do. And I just think that even like having this podcast and stuff like that, as a group, we're going to show people. Because there's a bunch of groups that I followed from the past. When they first came out, it looked like they're all like friends, and it looked like it was going to, whatever, now in their individual lives, whatever. So I think for us, it's important to maintain groupness. Like the Beatles, even the Beatles fell apart at some point, right?
Facts.
So in the same time, maybe,
I think the Beatles fell apart. Well, sorry, I won't even go into that. Go ahead.
I just think that we don't know how life's going to turn out. and we don't know what's gonna happen. But I think that the idea of staying together and it will look different, whatever that thing is, whether we're all four on stage at a time or, like you said, you're on Joe Rogan by yourself or whatever the thing is, that doesn't take away that even if we do things individually, we're not
Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
Maybe not by myself though. You might.
I mean, it might be better for
If
us
you're on
all to
Joe
get our
Rogan-
individual Joe Rogans.
If
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this and put this out in the world right now. If he's first, and I wasn't even invited, I'm gonna have beef about it.
I have a perspective on it, so I'll just keep talking.
You guys
I
all be
don't-
in the sound.
I don't
booth
care
at
if you're
least,
not
you know?
first.
But I think that
But if I wasn't even invited, I'm gonna have beef about
I
it.
think that like individually,
Stop it. Yeesh.
I think that
There's
individually,
the call.
it's okay to do things and to venture out on your own. But I think that
I'm getting
holding a
trouble when she
solid
watches this.
foundation
Mhm.
of being a group and being together and going through ups and downs is our purpose. Is to show that, because even just like the simple thing of like how many times it's shown like you see like people don't like my dad and my mom aren't together.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like obviously you don't want to see yourself in 10 years like divorced.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, it's like that idea.
Once she sees that phone call.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? But then you work through. But you don't want it. That you don't foresee yourself ending that.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you wouldn't take it to begin with. So it's like in that sense, it's like there's already so many bad role models and bad things that show divorce and show this and show being separate and being by yourself and alone, that we need people to stick together. And we need people to show that there's this other way to do it. We need the JFKs and the MLKs and the Malcolm X and the Gandhis.
And then you need like the Dick Gregorys who don't get murdered and they actually live to be 80, 90 years old and are still revolutionaries, even though people don't really
and
know
it's
who
hard
that
to
is.
murder all four of us.
Technically, like Paul McCartney and
Yeah.
Ringo are
With that
still
being
alive.
said, we need more black people because I'm not trying to be the
The
first.
first one to go. Technically, we're at if you add us all up, we're 50-50.
Yeah, we're 50-50.
You're just the only one on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That's because the lighting. We have to make sure you get the lighting. Can't have two. No.
But
So that was but I think it seems like you guys feel like you should go soon.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
get the-
I
yeah.
actually did want to bring something up today.
Okay.
So I basically wanted to ask, how do you deal with disappointment? And is there a level of disappointment that you can have with someone that you want to remove them from your life, or like there's like an end all where you're just like, or because the way I look at it is, if you're disappointed in them, you love them in a certain way. So how could you really? You could be like, is there a max where you're just like, I'm removing from my life. I don't want anything to do with you. But since you love them because they disappointed you, and you love them, like, can you do that? So my first question is, how do you deal with disappointment? And my second question is, do you have a max level, and what do you do when you hit that max?
See, and that's wild too, because their 2 points were very similar. And piggyback, my point that I was gonna bring was how, like, basically the feeling of being tired, and like how do we perceive tired? Like, do you perceive tired? And that's why, like, you going disappointment, that's wild.
Because for me, I just feel like recently I felt very, like, I always have disappointment with the world and just, like, you know what I mean? Like, just, like, looking at, but the people around you. And it's, like, being, like, heavily, like, over, like, just one, the next day after the next day after the next day, it's just, and now it's, like, at this point, I'm, like, extremely disappointed, and I don't want anything to do. I don't really want to speak. I just kind of want to just coexist in my life and not have to deal with it. But also, I feel like that's not, like, healthy, because I'm just going to compartmentalize this thing. It's
Right.
going to be with me for whatever. And so it's like, I don't know. I feel like the way I deal with disappointment, though, is I, like, accept what it is. You have to accept what's going on. I forgive them because I just don't think that they really understand what's going on or what they even may be doing. And I forgive them for that. And then you just have to be like, it sucks, you know what I mean? But you can't, like, wait around. It's just more or less like, maybe I'll just leave it on the back burner, and whenever they come around, we can pick it up, and we'll see how, like, much energy I have for that. Bringing into your tired thing, I think it has to do with, I think tiredness is a battle between physical tiredness and mental tiredness. Mental tiredness you can beat. You can, like, do some caffeine, and now you're perked up a little bit. Now you're going to crash.
Or just
after
work
that.
out.
Yeah, work out, stimulate your mind. There's things that you can get past, but the physical tiredness, you walking around walking around laps and laps and laps, and now you've walked 10 miles today or whatever, you can't take that back. Like, your body feels that. So now you are physically. So I think when I get physically tired and I understand what I've done, I make sure I take some time for myself to relax and enjoy a moment for myself, even if it's for 1 moment or 10 minutes or whatever it is, and then go back to it. And then, because I know I'm going to get to a point where I can, like, this is not going to be forever. And then a mental tiredness or mental fatigue, I either see if I can find a way to get out of it, or I accept that I am mentally tired and remove myself from situations that I might be negative in, and just kind of like, again, try to find a place of solidarity and peace, and just like kind of like take a step back from what's going on, and then know that this is not forever, and you'll get over it, and just try to get some good sleep or watch something that you like to watch. Like right now, I'm watching Star Wars because it's the last podcast. I just felt like I wanted to get back and just watch. But so yeah, disappointment. How do we deal with disappointment?
I feel like for me, you deal with disappointment every day, whether it's small amounts or big amounts, and everything you gotta take within a spectrum. It's like well, we talked about your kid already, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's say like Calvin's kid says something when I'm babysitting him, and like I'm like, no, buddy, you gotta wait. You know what I'm saying? He wants lunch or something like that. It's like, you gotta wait for your juice with your lunch. And it's like 30 minutes until lunchtime. And then he's just like, juice? And I'm a little disappointed with him. Obviously, like, he doesn't really fully understand it. So, like, that's level, like, minimum
Talking about
disappointment.
throws out my son first.
That was just the first one that comes up.
Your son is very disappointed.
But now, when I think of major disappointment, I think of Cal.
And we can see where this goes.
Something about an apple in the
But
tree.
no, but seriously, like when I think of like major disappointment, I think of something like, I don't want to get too specific with it, but like, I had family members where there was things that were accusing, and I felt like I just needed to take a step back from those certain people, and they actually reached out to me recently, and I feel like I'm ready to finally like open up to them and see what they want to talk about, and like see if we can find something again. Yeah. And I love them. I still have a lot of love for them. I care about them. Don't want anything bad.
So you got to the point where you felt necessary to remove them from your surrounding area, but not delete them from your existence.
And like I would still talk to them if if they'd message me, but I didn't feel the need to message out to them because I needed that space.
They were ready to talk.
Yeah.
About what you felt you could get across.
And maybe I could do more on my part also to like can communicate why I feel this disappointment, because I never really had that opportunity other than when it initially happened.
Yeah, but then everything's happening in the moment. No one's gonna really understand.
Exactly. So you also got to reflect on like why you feel like you're really feeling disappointment. Is it you, or is it them? Because like if you put that expectation on them, right?
But I agree with that. But also I feel like there's a balance between like being disappointed that Calvin doesn't want to have his album out by next week, versus Calvin's in Atlanta and none of us answer his phone call and he's stuck there all night because none of us cared about that he was over there.
Fact.
That kind of disappointment in all like his
that didn't happen, by the way.
It didn't happen, of course. But that metaphor.
I was actually stuck at my last.
Well, you didn't call
job.
me though. You didn't call me.
No. Somebody else picked up.
And I
first.
didn't read.
Before I
But
made
in
it
that
done.
sense, it's like if he did call us all and he was stuck or in a real thing in need, and all of us had no excuse as to why we just looked at the phone and didn't answer, and we just fuck Calvin. You know what I mean? At that point, he could have a reason to be extremely disappointed at us, and to the point where it's like,
that should be addressed.
That's like a borderline, like as being like a family member. That's like just part of the thing. You know what I mean? Like that's part of the get. Like a rando on the street, you don't really have to go do everything to help them. But if it's like your family member and you have an opportunity, you should do that. So I feel like it's a little harder. It's hard to you have to like, are you putting it on them because you want something from them, or are you putting it on them because you just feel like that's what you would do to other people, and that's just how things go. Like I say I love you, and if you love me, you tell me you love me back. Just turn around and walk away. You know what I mean? And like,
Cold shoulder.
Yeah, cold shoulder.
Yeah, get dodged on a hug right before we start the
I didn't
podcast.
see the hug. I didn't see
But
the hug.
and that's the reason I like pinged up when you said expectation, because that like my
I expect
answer,
you to refix that next time.
It looks like it's on the slant right now,
It
so
is.
you're probably good for right now.
But my answer for disappointment is basically like, and I feel like it plays into fatigue too. It's the culmination of expectation and preparation, because if I expect this much out of you, but I've done nothing to let you know I expect that, I've done nothing to prepare you for that expectation, I don't really have room to be disappointed.
And what if you have?
If I have,
So now you're at your max.
if I have prepared majorly and I expect little, and you don't do that, that's where massive disappointment
Yeah.
plays.
Okay. Fast.
And
So
that's
now
why I said-
how are you gonna deal with that part?
And so I feel like it depends on that ratio. This is terrifying me.
It's alright. Just keep your.
I'm
We're
not
almost
holding
done,
it.
so I would just say
Yeah.
just
But,
suffer through it, just holding it.
That's why I'd say that like it depends on that ratio, because
Okay,
if
so
if
I'm
there's
gonna
a-
say right now in my personal life, I'm probably at like borderline, unless I do something that's just like so terrible, and you're just like, what the like, beyond this a family, like what are you doing as a human being? You know what I'm saying? Beyond that, like I'm already at that point where I'm like at the max of disappointment. So now I'm asking you, the ratio is 1-to-1 disappointment, 100%, no doubt about it. I'm at the only thing that you could make me more is if you do something that's just so outrageous as being a human being, that's against the laws of being a human being, that I just can't even acknowledge that you existence anymore. So it'd be one step below that.
See, I feel like that's where that fatigue plays in, because that's what I mean by ratio, the ratio of preparation to expectation. And so if I'm at that like pivotal point, that means your expectations were huge because your preparation was huge, and I have not fulfilled any of them.
No, at this point, my expectations are little, and
that so
I'm still
I
heavy
would say
disappointed.
it like visually it would be the bigger preparation grows, the bigger expectation should grow, and the smaller expectation shrinks the less preparation you want to be putting in. Because if I don't, all right, so an example of what I mean
but what
by
are you
this is-
doing about it though? What are you doing? Like,
if
okay, so
you're-
say you're heavily disappointed in me right now,
Yeah,
and we cross each other on the street. What are you doing?
that's why it depends on fatigue for me personally, and that's why I brought up tired when you brought that up, because you both said you got tired of this, you got tired of being disappointed. Because let's be honest, there's some things that
I'm not tired of being disappointed, because I know that I can be disappointed more.
My son
and
can
there's
disappoint
always
me.
room for disappointment.
My
But
son
my
can-
point is,
but
my point is that there's a way, like, in the sense of dealing with the disappointment of somebody in something. Like, I do have you do put an expectation on this person to do whatever. But at the end of the day, if like everyone, like, I expect all of us to be like to love each other. Like, that's why I just expect, like, because we are loving people and we all love each other. So now when you
100%.
find out this person really isn't like that, and they're sitting right next to you, and you got to figure out
dang, Dwayne.
what to do about this person.
You're gonna say
Right now, your physical fatigue right now, are you gonna want to talk it through?
No,
Or
I'm not going to do anything.
And are you gonna? So basically, what's your approach? Because I understand what you're saying about like, I'm more tired of the situation right now, so it's easier for me to just
Well,
throw it
no,
away.
and here's why I say fatigue as well, though. It's because like, if we're at that point, like I can't even let you go because I'm so disappointed in you, then there's a good chance, if I'm feeling good, if I'm like lively, if I'm not tired, that I'm gonna do something about it. I'm either gonna do something about it, like I'm gonna kick your ass, and then we're not talking again, or I'm gonna kick your ass and get you in line, or I'm gonna do something about it to the point where it's like we're about to sit down and have a deep talk. And it depends on fatigue. If I'm physically fatigued, I'm probably not gonna kick your ass because I'm not trying to get my ass kicked in the process.
But what
If
it's
I'm
someone you
mentally
can't-
fatigued, I'm
like,
not gonna talk
Like, put
to
it
you.
like this. Like, what if it's your grandma? Your grandma is just disappointed you like time and time again, like so bad that but now you have this thing where it's like, you're my grandma, and I'm supposed to like love you and blah blah blah. But now like I don't really know what you're thinking and blah blah blah, and I don't really, and you can't understand me. You know what I'm saying? And I can't go. And right now my grandma lives. I can't go see her. So if I call her and she doesn't answer, What do I do? But then all of a sudden you randomly see him in the airport. Now it's like, or I guess not even see them. Like, are you thinking about it on the day to day? Like, are you like, how far are you allowing this to like sit on your conscious? Somebody.
That's why like for me personally, it really is. That's why I keep bringing it back to fatigue, because like right now, nobody that disappoints me is ever going through my brain. Nobody. But there are times where when I like that month I had a month of life where I basically was guilt-free doing nothing. Right? And like most people got that during COVID too, but the month I'm talking about in particular, I was not working, but I wasn't expected to be working. And I was doing the things I was supposed to do, and I literally had the rest of the day. And like for that entire month, I felt like I wasn't doing shit. And it was great, but to the same extent, that's when all the disappointing things, people, whatevers were popping in my brain the most, because I had energy, I had physical energy, I had mental energy to put into, all right, I could go walk, or I could not walk, but I could go to this person, this thing, and
try to
exert
resolve
the energy
it, really. That's
to
what
resolve
you're trying
it.
to do.
And that's why that like disappointment is based on expectation, because you're not going to be, if you literally expect nothing from something, from whatever it is, if you don't have any expectations, which isn't realistic, nor I don't think it's possible, because even if you take a stranger, well, I expect the stranger to act like a stranger and not come talk to me.
Well,
or
that's just today's society.
Well, yeah, but
I would say not punch you in the face. Like that's
That's the way-
like, you don't just walk down the street and punch someone in the face.
yeah,
You know what I
right.
mean?
And so you,
But
you
if
have,
Eddie walked down the street and punched someone in the face, you'd be disappointed what Eddie's
Yeah.
doing.
and I
You
feel
know
like
what I'm
they'd
saying?
be too.
But that's not
But-
something that's not something that's gonna throw you over the edge though.
No,
Okay,
but
I
my-
just think like this. Let me throw some in here. I just feel like you have, like, for me, like, there's everybody that you love in your life. I feel you. Everybody that you love in your life. And then you have moments where you grow as a person and those people don't grow. Like, they stay or they grow in a different direction. And now when you look at it, and when you, like, because I've had friends, like one of my best friends I grew up with, his name is Brett. Shout out to Brett. Like, we both grew up, like, we were best friends as kids, but we just grew separate ways. And he grew in a healthy direction. I grew in a healthy direction. So it wasn't anything like we had a bad falling out. Like, I had other friends that I had bad falling outs with. I never had a bad falling out. We just grew apart. And that's all good. It's all fine and dandy. When you think of them, you just think of happy shit. Like, oh, that was my friend growing up. We had a lot of great times. And so that's that. Every once in a while, you're like, I wonder how he's doing, type shit. And that's where the extent of it. There's no disappointment involved, because it's like, it just
Because
ended
there's no expectation.
healthy. Yeah, and there's no expectation. But then you have people that you are around longer, and those people where it's like, oh, like family members. And then you get to a point where you're growing in a direction and they're growing in an unhealthy direction, to the point where their unhealthiness is now going on to you. Because in my choice is either the way I deal with it is I either protect myself by removing myself from them, or I just stay in the splash zone and get their negative shit. And then
And that's where preparation plays in, though, because you're prepared to take that.
so then at some point in time, for me, I no longer want to take it. Like, I no longer am willing to be like your excuse for the reason why you hate your life.
The preparation to make the expectation meet. And that's why I said I think that is the
Okay, which back to
recipe
my
for
question
disappointment.
is there a level of disappointment
1000%.
that you're maxed out? And
Yes,
when you do that,
because
what
I'm
do you
there.
do? What do you do with that? Like Eddie said that his was that he compartmentalized it, removed himself from the situation, and waited until those people were ready. Those people wanted to talk to him.
And that's a blessing that they did that, because I have a falling out with a family member that person has not come to me yet and said that. So I'm still on, like, I don't have any contact.
And I'll be real with you. This happened. I'm 22 now. This happened almost 5 years ago.
Okay, so that is
That's a
faster.
long time.
Yeah.
It took a lot of time.
Yeah.
Did you think about it during these 5 years?
Oh, a whole bunch.
And did it make you sad during the time?
A whole bunch. Yeah,
So
it made me sad.
is it what
Yeah.
Calvin's saying? Just like when you have the energy to think about it.
Yeah.
You think about it, and then when you don't.
And like there was definitely times where they would message me, and I would message them back, and something like they would say something, and I just was like, I'm not ready.
Yeah, you just kind of know.
You try to probe it and see where they're
That
at.
makes sense. That makes sense.
Preparation.
That makes sense.
And
I just feel like for me, I'm just like at the point now where like you give people the benefit of the doubt enough times.
And that's why
At this point, sometimes like at the end of the day, sometimes you gotta be the asshole where it's like you just got to be like, you know what, I don't really give a fuck about what you think or feel or say at this moment, and you got to let them know that. And then you just stop that.
You know what I think? I want to throw this in. I think in those situations when you do have those moments, whatever the relationship was before is dead. Like when it comes to that point where you're now not talking, that relationship you had is dead.
You killed that expectation.
And now moving forward is like what the new relationship could be if we're there. Like I have a line in one of my songs that says make amends, that depends on your new stance. Simple as that, but it's like making amends comes from that depends on where your new stance is.
Yeah.
Like what energy you come to me
like,
with.
oh, sorry, I stabbed you, and then like you're still stabbing.
Yeah.
Like you gotta.
Because that's one of the situations.
Like, I know for a fact that you.
And that's one of the worst things.
And to fully answer your question, like I feel like my answer would be, I'm more than likely I'm gonna go for like that one KO punch. And in the sense of
you
like,
wait for the moment to get the kill shot.
I'm gonna wait until I have enough energy, and I did this with a certain situation. If you think hard enough, you could probably get there, right? Where I waited until I had enough energy to put in this absolute.
Okay, I understand what you're saying now.
Banger of a shot.
Yeah.
And like either you are going to, because my expectations
Someone's
are
going down.
so little. My expectations are so little at this point. And I put in so much preparation, which is why I'm exerting this whole source of energy from my preparation.
Okay.
And so
now,
if
then
you can't meet that expectation, then I'm closing it.
So I just want to just add this little point to my thing. So is there a point in time where is there something that beyond like just like a terrible spiritual law that you break would be that they disappointed you so much that no matter when they came back to you, you still would never entertain it? Or is that like a very rare outlier?
Well, no, I'm willing to say this. Like my father's one of those people to me because like I have zero expectation. I really do.
So even if your father tried, and you could see that he was in a good spot in his life, you still wouldn't entertain it.
I really wouldn't care.
Facts.
I really wouldn't care. If I'm not mistaken, and this is hearsay because I haven't gotten
is there more than one person like that in your life that you had that with? Or?
Yeah, but this isn't that. I'm willing to out him.
No, I'm saying so it's not an outlier. So you're comfortable. No. So you feel like it's best for you to just completely remove people.
Because I had my one haymaker
from now
with him.
and the future.
Yeah, I had my one haymaker with him, and it was my senior year of high school. I was doing well in sports. He came to one game, and it was the game I got hurt. It was either senior or junior. Now I'm thinking about it, but regardless, I got hurt, and I couldn't walk for a minute. And I remember, funnily enough, I took him to Chili's because I always got food poisoning from Chili's. So I took him to Chili's, made him pay, threw away the food afterwards because I literally lost my appetite during the meal. And I gave that one last haymaker, if you really want to be in my life, you're going to do it before I do whatever I'm going to do. And so for me now, if he were to, hey, I know I it'd be cool. If you need me to make amends in your life, if you need me to reach some resolution, I'll give that to you. Because I have nothing.
You're not evil.
Against you.
And I can understand this the way my emotions work, and maybe it's what you're saying is like you start in this space of like this is like the happiness and the love, and then when that thing slowly deteriorates, it becomes like anger, sadness, and then it stoops to a point where you think the worst is like extreme anger, but beyond that is like neutrality, where like I no longer care if you're good or bad.
Yeah.
Like if you're bad, okay, sorry. If you're good, I don't care either. It's like whatever. I really don't wish you good, and I don't wish you bad.
I mean, but don't get me wrong. I wish him good, but for nothing more than he's a human being.
Yeah, for me, I'm like, because I wouldn't wish bad upon anyone. Yeah, but I also wouldn't waste my blessings on some people. If I'm not gonna lie, if I can say bless you, if I can give 3 blessings in a day, I'm not gonna waste my blessing. Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm gonna give it to somebody who deserves it.
And I'll say this too, that like the only real emotion I feel towards him specifically is the fact that I have heard he calls himself a grandfather, a grandfather, and so that irks me. Not even for me though.
Like you aren't even.
It irks me for my son that somebody's using his name.
Yeah,
that has no right.
That makes sense.
And so
never
that
really met the man.
Yeah, like literally, you don't know me as a person right now. You
trying to get them clout tokens.
Like you've probably seen pictures just because I sent them to your mother. Because I'm trying to keep in contact with my grandmother, who you screwed up my relationship with. Yeah. And that's why you have
At that point, you
no.
might as well
I've
just-
just been holding. No, don't do that because I might as well just do this.
Well, you're almost off the edge.
I was just making. Yeah, but it's on my knee.
I heard.
That's
Oh, I
okay.
see. Yeah.
Well,
I was
with
making
that,
it easier
let's go
on
with
my
closing statements.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Closing statements.
But I would say I'm not disappointed in this podcast.
no, because we put in
I
the
think-
preparation.
Yes.
And
Yes,
hit
and-
our expectations.
You know, and I expected all of us to grow,
Mm,
and now it's borderline it.
mm.
Yeah.
We're all every time, like you said, you're excited for the next one. I'm always excited because when I rewatch them, I learn for myself, and there's always something I'm like, oh, I wish I would have said that, or maybe I should be a little more like that. And it's things like that where we just grow, and eventually there's gonna be people that like all of us differently. You know what I mean? Different things that they're gonna want to go on or whatever. Or you might have your own little like a 30-minute segment where you just talk about this and you just have your own little guest song. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Things like that. But I definitely think that there's a lot of disappointment and a lot of damn moments going on.
Mm.
But this is beautiful that we came together and did this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not gonna be too much editing, and it's gonna be streamlined for me. And I think
Yeah.
that we definitely took it serious.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which I definitely liked.
And I want to close it out with the fact that I feel like disappointment is probably one of the biggest gateways to success though, through and through, because it's the whole like you got to fail, but I feel like disappointment specifically teach you where to put your energy.
Facts.
It does give you lessons for sure.
It's a
Teach you where you-
clarifier.
Yeah. Clarity.
Like that's probably one of the more strong.
And that's
feelings.
I get
One of
that
the
feeling of
stronger feelings.
through when you weather the storm. When you get to the other side, I have relief by the end of it because then I also feel like I have less baggage.
See,
It's
but
almost
imagine
like
if you weren't
go through the
disappointed by the storm.
and you turn around and you see the rainbow.
Yeah.
You see it's still pouring.
Mm.
You have the rainbow
See,
with you, and you
but
look
if
at
you
it, it's
weren't disappointed by the storm, the rain like if you needed that rain,
yeah.
then it's the rain.
Well, I
stopping
definitely
that
believe
Yeah.
life is gonna put us in these situations for different reasons. It's just sometimes it's hard to accept. Why is it this person that's trying to? Get
I feel
me?
like it's your metaphor is like you're a farmer, you're standing on a farm, the rain comes and it soaks you up wet, and you're like,
You're
oh my
like,
god.
"Thank you."
But then you look at all the crops growing, and you're like, okay, that was amazing, even though you just got soaked.
Well, I know.
And maybe
I feel
struck by
like
lightning.
the fact that you're getting soaked. The fact that you're getting soaked is like to a farmer whose crops are drying up. You are living it up. The fact that you're wet, you really are.
Perspective, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what I mean by like,
Well, I did make a song from it. So
yeah, I don't know
you
that.
I mean?
What were you gonna say
Same.
about the painting?
Oh, I just think it's cool how I didn't even really think about it till now, but like the dock is like leading out into the ocean, so you're arriving to the ocean.
Yeah,
Or
I
something
thought that
around.
was very purposeful.
Yeah, I definitely like.
Well, actually, we got this as a gift for somebody else, and then when they moved, they just didn't want it. We're like, all right, we'll take it.
That's wild,
So it's definitely nice.
Yep.
And
We
then
gotta-
hopefully the neon sign will be here soon.
right?
Yeah.
Gotta figure out how to actually get it.
Well,
We got
that's
Photoshop. Us
Been talking about the
right
neon sign since what? Number
App
one.
Something like that.
Maybe one.
I mean, if we can all like
Well, this
scrum
also
together the
tests-
money for it,
Alright.
This is
Right.
this is officially a month of doing this.
Mm.
So you
Sure.
just think about that. That's progression.
Sure.
and,
yeah.
You know, it's only going to be more and more. So thank you everyone who watched. Thank you to everyone who's gonna watch.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
I just realized that that's 52 a year, which will take us 20 years to get to 1,000.
But like I said before in the other video, like if
Never
we had a
just close
studio,
out.
if
Okay,
we,
sorry.
like if we had like a mansion or whatever, and we had a podcast studio, every time we're out on the porch, we could just do like hour segments.
Yeah.
If it's already set up,
to do
yeah,
it.
you just hit
But
record.
since it's not,
Um,
so eventually throughout time, I think we will get to having more than one a week.
Mm.
Like Joe Rogan has 3 or 4.
And I will throw this out just as like getting it on record in case we end up doing it. This gives me tabletop video vibes, like
What?
tabletop board game video vibes,
I'm down. I've
Because-
been playing chess in my mind the whole time.
right?
Facts.
I beat you in my mind, but
No way,
we don't
dude.
have to talk about it. All right,
No, because pawn takes pawn, check king. You know what I mean? Take queen. Anyway.
I think my favorite thing is
Everyone
I win.
wins.
being able to
And
incorporate.
so
I
Look,
win.
pawn takes pawn in front of
you
bishop, and that the queen can't move out. You could even take pawn to check, but even then, you just move back.
We gotta
You
do
go
a knight
knight
first.
in, or you go pawn takes queen. You
That'd
go
be
knight in for the
interesting.
check.
The smartest move is that would be my first move at least if we were playing from that
Yeah, you
board.
take queen immediately.
Bye.
Well, no, I wanted to say something. I think we should incorporate the color scheme whenever we.
Well, my
do
color
get
scheme's
it
falling
out.
off, and I'm
Yeah.
holding my microphone,
Alright,
so I'd like to
bye.
close
What's
up.
up,
Bye.
Guru? Ocean's on Arrival, episode 4. Ocean
Or
Waves.
check us
Stream
out.
Ocean on a roll.
Everything, music,
Yeah.
YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music. everything.
Psych, just go look at Calvino.
SoundCloud.
Boom.
OceanOnArrival.com. Check out all the merch.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
I want to rock.
Rock. Get copyrighted by SpongeBob.
Oh yeah, that is SpongeBob.
Is that SpongeBob specific?
Let me start airdropping it to the laptop real quick.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Stop. No.